Your hosts, Andy Heilbrunn and Greg Elsten.
Ooh, doggy, we got a party now!
Featuring Braden Soprano. The good times start now. Here are your hosts, Andy and Elsten, on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It is Andy and Elsten with you, 10 o'clock on Tuesday, January 9th. Ready to rock for the next 4 hours, bringing you live local San Diego sports talk radio. We are live on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. We are streaming live on YouTube. You know, still getting the cameras and mic. It's only me right now. This is the lowest rated portion of the show, Annie, on TV when it's just me and not you.
Yes. Good morning to everyone. And well, I don't know about that, Craig, but currently the browser has blocked my mic and camera, which this is day 4, and this surprises no one. Polly is kind of in my lap, not totally Megan, but a little bit.
Hey.
Trying to fix this. And I think we're going to get it, though, because Polly's a genius when it comes to these sorts of things. So we're in good hands.
Executive producer of the entire station, right? Or is that
really,
I mean, technical wizard.
I really would give this to Polly. Polly does a lot for all of us here.
Polly's the man.
Yeah.
He is here. So is Braden, by the way. Braden Soprano's here. Good morning, Braden.
I'm here. My camera is working. There we go.
Braden awesome as well.
Over.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I had to add some new graphics there. Put our own branding on it.
I like it.
That will be improved throughout the shows. That was just kind of the rough scratch, since I've never used Canva before. I'm more of a Photoshop guy, but I had to get something going. So thanks to Paul and Scraby for having templates available so I could do that for the stream. So we're gonna have some new graphics. We do have a guest graphic now, which is nice, and I'll be able to update that. Still working on some other things to try to play around with the show. And there's a lot of things in here there's a lot of untapped potential on StreamYard and on Canva, and I might have some tricks up my sleeve to separate ourselves from the other two shows, guys. So
I like your facial tricks.
That's right. I gotta mix in some other stuff, some animated stuff, to make it look like a real show, a TV show.
Well, the graphic looks great. You did a great job with that.
I slapped it together in 20 minutes for the show started. While you guys were planning the show, I was in the dark producer room over there with the Macs going at it on the graphics, and that's what I came up with very quickly.
Braden, never say that you slapped it together in 20 minutes. Be like, this took me hours. I slaved over it.
The thing is, I could do way better than that. So I don't want that to be the standard of what it is.
Well, what's happening, everybody? You all ready for another 4 hours of this? You ready to go? Ready to rock?
I'm ready to go. I haven't quite gotten the morning routine down yet. I don't know about you guys. Like the whole, when do you work out? When do you, because, we're kind of prepping in the mornings for the show.
Yeah.
I'm on day 2 of a new lifestyle change. I was talking to Craig about it yesterday.
Please enlighten us, Braden, with
I've
what
been
you're doing.
Successful people like to get up at 5 in the morning, which I'm not going to do yet, but I do want to get close to that. And so the deal is, what you do is, at least is what the experts say, you set your alarm for 30 minutes prior to time you usually get up, and do that for about a week, and then the next week do another 30 minutes, and then work your way up to whatever desired goal you want to wake up. So right now I'm at 6:30, which is going to be tough tomorrow, because I was telling Craig I already have football practice tomorrow at 6 a.m. at Cathedral. So that's going to be
brutal.
Very early rising morning tomorrow.
How cold is it at Cathedral Stadium at 6 in the morning?
At Manchester Stadium, during January and February, it's very, very cold. That was very chilling times that we get to start up again. I don't go to every single workout. I do go to the Wednesdays, though. But anyway, so get up and make sure your alarm is away from your bedside table so you can't turn it off.
You can't hit snooze 10 times like I do.
Getting up to turn off the snooze will wake you up. And then what you do is, I've been doing the cold plunge in part of the shower, because I don't want to go outside and jump in my pool, because it's not going to work. So I'm easing myself into it. So you take the hot shower and shower like you normally would, and at the end of the shower, you crank it to cold, and you sit in the cold shower for about 3 minutes. If you can't do that, start with 30 seconds and build your way up. So I've done that twice now with the 3-minute cold shower. I tell you, I am so ready for the day after the cold shower, which is surprising. I don't like it for the first 30 minutes or 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But after the 3 minutes, I'm ready to go, and then consume some protein, Annie, and then go for a 30-minute walk.
Love it.
And get it going. And then when you come home, if you need to add more protein, for me, I do need more than 30 grams of protein in the morning. Got to go, you got to try to get to the amount of protein in ounces per the weight you want to be. So like for me, like 160 ounces of protein a day is like where I need to be.
Wow.
But I talked to you about the Himalayan salt water,
yes.
Annie, so I'm doing that as well. And so far, so good. I feel really refreshed and ready to go to attack the day. I was not doing this previously. I was rolling out of bed and rolling into work around like 9-ish.
Right.
And I feel kind of groggy. But right now, I feel great on day 2. So that is my morning routine.
Damn.
I got to work in some workouts, though. The 30-minute walks, just kind of checking some boxes, but got to get some lifting in. But as of right now, that's where I'm at.
It's motivating.
Michael asks in the chat, why not flip the walk and the shower? Why not walk, then shower?
You got to cold plunge first. The cold plunge is first, then the protein consumption, then the walk. That's the way it's formatted. So I'm gonna stick with that. Cold shower does wake me up. It's very nice. So
A lot of science behind that one.
a lot of, you know what? I trust my guy Gary Brecka. You got to check him out. It's pretty good, insightful information that my sister's been doing, and she lost a ton of weight over the last like 6 months doing this kind of routine, and obviously got to adjust it for a 28-year-old male compared to a 25-year-old female. But aside from that, everything's been running smoothly. And I was dreading the cold plunge, but I kind of enjoy it. It's kind of nice.
Well, that's the whole like pain is pleasure sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like the cold plunge is like
it's a mind over matter.
Yeah, it's a mind over matter. What's your morning routine, Craig?
Well, my morning routine is dictated by the geography of my house, Annie.
Okay.
We in La Mesa have a tidy 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. So on a morning like this, everything is determined on when my wife gets out of the bathroom.
Oh yeah,
because she goes in first. And it's understandable. She leaves the house first, a teacher in La Mesa. So she's out of the house by about 7:10.
it's like shaping kids get lives, doing real work, you know?
I mean, yes, we're obviously shaping lives everywhere
Are we?
with our witty sports banter. So, I can consider it almost equivalent
okay.
to teaching special ed to preschool kids for decades. I do not consider it equivalent. Nonetheless, so she gets up about 5. She sets her alarm at 5.
Okay.
And that is my 1-hour warning, essentially.
What about your son, though? Does he have bathroom
Then he gets
time?
up when, he doesn't, thankfully, he's of an age where he doesn't immediately have to go to the bathroom when he wakes up, unlike the rest of us. So yeah, she gets up at 5, and then that's my, I tell myself, this is an important hour to rest, because I can't get up. When I get up, I have to go, right away. I'm just a very regular person. That's something now you all know about me that
you.
I didn't need to share
little
necessarily.
Overshare there. Little
But
overshare.
nonetheless, so
Okay.
I just wait for her to get out. And that's how the routine begins. And then take care of business, come out, feed the dog, take the dog for a walk.
Are you a breakfast person in the morning?
Not usually, but now I am, because we have no chance to eat lunch. So now I'm dropped off the kid at school, 7:45 today at St. Martin's. Came back home, boom, knocked out a bagel. Finished tinkering around, see if anything important happened this morning. Nothing happened again this morning. And then in we come. I had a little soccer staff meeting on the way in, and that was that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I exit my house and I put on my skis and I just ski down the Alps.
That's
like
how you get
I do.
going in the morning?
That's
Yeah.
my cold shower.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do, and that's how I get going. And then I pick some flowers along the way, and build a fire and all that stuff. And then I make it in here. So it's a really holistic way of doing things. Everybody loves that word right now, holistic. So yeah, that's about what I'm doing.
Yeah. While I'm walking the dog, I do Wordle. I do the New York Times connections puzzle.
Do you really?
Sometimes I do Immaculate Grid, depending. But yeah, it helps wake my brain up. And I usually have Ben and Woods on the YouTube stream on the phone.
Yes.
But every morning I just do that, and it's it just helps get you're creating connections, synapses are starting to connect in there, and because we need to be mentally awake and morally straight in order to do the job.
You preach right there. Okay.
So what's happening in the world of sports today? Aztecs play a little bit later. They'll take on San Jose State on the road, an 8 o'clock start time there, looking to get to 3-0 in Mountain West Conference play. We can talk next segment about the national championship game. Yes. It started as a rout and then kind of narrowed in for a minute and then found its footing and became a rout as Michigan rolls to their first truly undisputed championship in multiple decades, and also brings an end to an era of college football. We'll talk about more again about that after the break, but 4-team college football playoff.
Thank the Lord that is over.
Gone.
You were talking to the one person that hated the college football playoff 4-team after I was brokenhearted in 2014, getting hosed as a college student when they dropped TCU from 3 to 6. Mm-hmm. I'm going to dance on the 4-team playoff grave until the 12-team playoff comes out, and I can't wait for it.
And it's also before that was the 2-team playoff era.
Oh God!
And before that was the no playoff era.
That's wild. To
Let's
think
have
about.
a bunch of people vote on the champion and not let them decide it on the field.
I heard
What
the
a
morning
great
show
idea.
mention that, and come on. I mean, really, that's what we're doing. You win the championship, and then you're still not certain that you're the winner because they have to vote on you?
The last time Washington won the national championship, they only won half of it.
Yeah.
Because the AP and the coaches poll split, and one took Nebraska, I believe, and the other took Washington.
I love all the claimed national championships too. That's always fun. You go through and there's a couple of years where 5 teams claim themselves as a national champion. Then they count it. They're like, hey, look, we're a 5-time national champion, and they're all disputed. It's great.
Yeah, thank goodness. Thank goodness that's over. If you're coming to check out the latest in Padres news, rip another day off the calendar. 35 days till pitchers and catchers report. Dodgers and Padres will report first because they'll start the season first out in Korea. So let's wake up. Here we go. Sleep at the wheel. Let's go, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, this is coming. I thought about it today. Usually at this point I'm like, nah, we still got a little bit of, we have some time, But with the whole Korea thing and everything moved up a little bit, and February, the mid-February is coming very, very, very quickly.
Too quickly.
Yeah.
Way too quickly. And nothing's happening. And the one good news is that nothing's happening pretty much everywhere. Bad pitchers are getting big contracts, and that's kind of it right now. There's a ton. I mean, all of the top remaining free agents are just sitting there. They're also all represented by Scott Boras.
Do we think this is going to happen in a flurry of moves right before spring training starts, or are we looking like this is going to drag out? I think this is going to drag out into spring training, well into spring training. What's your take?
Is it going to be as dragged out as the Craig Kimbrell Dallas Keuchel year, where they're signing in the middle of the season? I don't think it's going to get that far.
No, I don't think it'll be that far.
But
for someone it will.
For someone it will,
for sure. There's always that guy, that Keuchel type.
But for the Padres, I wonder, is this coming? Is this all coming in a flurry of moves at the end of January, something like that? Like one move leads to another, 2 to 3 quickly or something? Or are we looking like a slow drip here?
Well, the slow drip.
We've
got the slow. We don't even have the drip right now. We'd like to have a little bit of the drip.
Faucet
that would be
is
nice.
sealed off.
Yeah.
Sealed off.
I mean, I guess we got those
repairs.
we signed Oscar Mercado and Kevin Plawecki to minor league deals. I guess that's a drip, right? This guy could be El Paso's catcher this year. Woohoo!
It's a drip of sorts.
Brett Sullivan, you got some work now cut out for you to get those ABs down at El Paso. Plawecki's coming to take your bag, and by bag I mean your monthly stipend to be a Chihuahua. That's it for Padres right now. So later in the show, because I kind of feel dedicated to this bit now, we're going to try and think of another trade that could help the Padres. I think I'm just going to try and do let's make a trade every day until AJ maybe picks up on one of these.
AJ,
maybe the radio's on.
Please sign someone so we don't have to do this. Please.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Boston is talking about spreading their outfielders around. They're talking about making a move. Can we get one of the Red Sox outfielders? We're going to talk about it later in the show.
I mean, at least that is newsy, where they have expressed interest in that outfielder, and also Kenley Jansen, who will not be coming to the Padres. But at least Boston, we've gotten some news out of the Red Sox.
Thank goodness for that. We're going to check in coming up at 11:45 with Ross Tucker, Odyssey's NFL insider, and get a quick tour through Super Wildcard Weekend, talk about the biggest matchups coming up here in the first playoff weekend of the NFL. That's coming up in about 90 minutes from now. We've got plenty of stuff locked and loaded for you all the way here till 2 o'clock when Gwen and Chris check in, and then at 6 o'clock, it is the second edition of the Scraby Show from 6 to 7. So we're live with you till 7 p.m. Right here on 97.3 The Fan, and we're on YouTube every hour of the way. Right now, you can find us on the 97.3 The Fan page. Make sure that you like that page, subscribe to it, click like, offer commentary, good commentary preferred, but hey, look, it's a free world out there, because all of that helps drive the engagement for the show, not just our show, but Ben and Woods, Gwen and Chris, and Scrabes a little bit later on today.
It's kind of like Yelp reviews. You'd prefer the 5 stars, but
sure.
People are going to Yelp. They're going to leave their 2 and their 3. So it just kind of comes with the territory. But yeah, we're like a small business right now. We're trying to get off the ground. Please, allow us to grow.
Yeah, just find our legs.
Yes. But I'm looking at, what are we now? We're second week in January.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot going on in baseball as a whole. You're really looking at what is the next domino that they're waiting to fall. Like, what is it the TV? Is it the TV deal? Is it the fact that they're not sure, a lot of these teams, whether or not they're going to be able to get that deal again with Bally's? I know we were waiting on some news there. Like a team like the Rangers isn't sure right now whether they're going to get picked up again and be able to have a contract again for this year with Bally's, although maybe under a different financial number, but still the ability to move forward with that kind of money. And I think that may be for some of these teams what they're waiting on. Like, are they where's that money coming from the TV deals? Now, from the Padres, I really think that's, it's an issue for the Padres, but it's less so. I don't think that you're going back to Bally's at this point. You've already separated from Diamond, so you're under that MLB umbrella, and then some. We're waiting to see what happens there. But for some of these teams, that was a big thing right before New Year's, and they're waiting, I think, to go to court again this month to find out, are they going to have a TV deal with Bally's, or is it going to move over to what was it, Amazon, or I can't remember.
Amazon's talked about picking up some of it, right?
But are we, as a team, you're thinking, are we getting $20 million from here, or $10 million from here, or $30 million from here, or whatever? So. I don't know. Could that be why it's so slow right now? Or is it just slow because people are really hedging their bets? They're really kind of waiting to see if these numbers are going to fall and what they might be able to get at the last minute, and if they can get a better deal. But it is unusually quiet. Or maybe I just don't remember this part of the year. Do you guys remember? Is it always quiet second week of January?
It can be, but Andy McCullough in The Athletic today wrote a piece that talked about a lot of what you're discussing right now, and in particular the RSN situation, meaning the regional sports network situation. You look around the league, there's 11 teams still with a deal with Diamond, but they're talking right now about dropping that to 9. Cleveland and Texas both don't know right now. Are we going to have a deal? Are we not going to have a deal? So the Rangers, here's a team that's just got all their World Series cash.
Right.
They've got that. They're flush. They want momentum.
Right.
But they don't know their bottom line right now this year. And this is something Padres fans need to keep in mind as well. Now, is there a chance that the Padres have a TV deal that they've put in place but have yet to announce? Maybe. Not impossible. They're working on it. I've heard rumblings of some stuff, like on the local side, but I certainly haven't heard anything in terms of a regional sports partner, someone like Spectrum trying to come to town and grab market share, or any other cable company for that matter. The business model is broken. It continues to break. And that's why, Braden and I talked about it yesterday, Annie, while you were away on the show, that the bottom line of everything that's happened in this season, it seems boring to say, but it's just so true. It's the fact that the Time Warner Sportsnet deal with the Dodgers is $8 billion guaranteed over 25 years. Even if they disappear, they owe every dollar. It's written into the contract. Literally, if they go down to 0 subscribers, they have to pay. So the Dodgers just have this giant Scrooge McDuck trough of coins they can bathe in and dive into. And meanwhile, a World Series team, the Rangers, goes, we don't know how much money we have. And the Padres, we don't know how much money we have. You don't know.
It's wild. If you're MLB, what you want is to get all the teams under your umbrella. Like, that's what they're looking at. They're looking at, we want to have these digital rights. We want to have these streaming rights. We want to have all these teams under our umbrella. And then we're going to push out the streaming and we're going to, people are going to subscribe. If you're a team like the Dodgers, I believe the Yankees, and
Mets.
Marquee even, they're part of an RSN, but not because now they have their own, they were able to somehow splice that off or whatever. Right, the Mets, exactly. Any team that did it their way, essentially, and wasn't part of the mainstream RSN model, they are in a much better position right now, a much, much better position, and it's going to be difficult for MLB to even force them to come that direction. And I don't know that you would find people necessarily that are looking at the model that is going on with MLB, maybe the Padres, the Diamondbacks, because the Diamondbacks are in the same position right now, unless the Diamondbacks are trying to get back in. I saw that there was one team, I think, trying to get back into the RSN model. I don't know that I don't know that you could convince me that's the right way. Like, I'm not sure that that's the right way either. So it's really a conundrum, and I think this is going to take years to figure out. I don't think this is going to be a one-time thing because you have so much parity and you have so many different players in terms of how they structure their TV deals within even just MLB, right? Like, you have different teams do it different ways, and you're not going to convince the Dodgers to give up their way. Like, their way is really working for them, So it's really something that you had to have a lot of foresight, I think, into. You had to really look ahead at, and also have the market strength to support where some of these are, because you see them. They're in the LAs, the New Yorks, the Chicagos, so I think that's also a big part of it. You're able to get that market strength to support that kind of a move instead of depending on an RSN necessarily.
This is the next breaking point for baseball. This is going to, and the difference is, instead of it being players versus owners, this is going to be owners versus owners. And in some ways that means maybe it'll never come to a head the way that it could otherwise. But if this league ever wants to get to where they dream of truly being to compete with the NFL for eyeballs and to try and maximize share, some kind of centralized revenue model for local television is an absolute imperative, so that $8 billion is spread out and it's not just going to one team.
Well, yeah, and you guys were talking about it yesterday, and I heard Braden mention the word parity, and they are okay. This is what's crazy about Major League Baseball. They're okay with the parity. They are okay with some teams having a lot, some teams having hardly nothing. It works for them. It has to work for them in a sense, because they are making money. They are able to produce, the kind of financial, I guess, windfalls that or the profitability that they want to see. And so you just have this parity in this league, really, where you can have a really low bottom for some teams, a really high top for other teams, and they're okay with it. Now, to your point, the owners, right? Like, the owners, so within your market, within your city, you want to still be profiting. You want to still be able to field a competitive team. But how much, we saw it in the NFL with Jerry Jones. At the end of the day, what Jerry Jones wanted is, what Kroenke wanted, the people with the most money, the people with the most say, the people with the most clout, kind of fueled the league. You'd get a little bit of clicks here and there that would try to push back on something or other, but you also don't want to make those people mad because they could also really hurt you, So it's really political, honestly. Like, it's really political when you have a commissioner and you're the owners. The commissioner works for the owners. He's not working really necessarily for the best interest of the fan or the team or a specific team. Obviously wants to make the league better, right? They all do. But at the end of the day, the owners are the ones that are paying you to represent them. They want to make sure that they are getting theirs. And so, and everybody has different motivations, right? You have different teams with different motivations. Some owners are all about profiting. Some owners are more about giving more of a service to the community or fielding a more competitive team. Some want the entertaining team, and some want, just complete, no, we don't care about the entertainment factor. We just want, your milk and your cookies team that is gonna, gonna go out there and produce. I mean, there's just so many different motivations and variables that go into this, and it's just not the same across the board. And that's what makes it so befuddling, I think, and interesting going forward.
All right, we're overdue. We got to take a break. 10:24. We'll be right back. National championship last night. Michigan wins. Is this Jim Harbaugh's last time in maize and blue? Is he headed over to powder blue and yellow? Is this it for Jim Harbaugh? We're going to talk about it when we come back. It's Andy and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:30 on 97.3, The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. It's Annie and Elsten. Annie Heilbrunn. I'm Craig Elsten. Braden Soprenik here with you. Rolling till 2 o'clock. Your new midday hang on the #1 station in the market, 97.3, The Fan. Man, it's a great thing to be here. Can't wait for baseball season to start.
I know. I'm so excited for baseball season, too. I'm like, let's go. Let's start getting the daily news, the daily, tidbits that we get, what's going on down at the ballpark. That's going to be a lot of fun. And to bring kind of, what players are talking about, too. That's going to be a big part of the show.
Are we going to spring training? I don't know.
That would be nice. I've never been to spring training as a working individual. I went one time. I think I was like 7 or 8, and I've never been back since. I'd love to go. It'd be great.
I'd love to go, too.
I mean, I've always loved to go to spring training.
Yeah, you get to go.
I feel like you're going to go either way.
Yeah, you're going to go.
It's a great place to talk to players, as you guys know, where there's no stress. Yeah, Korea, I think Korea's going to affect spring training too this year, right? So the amount of time that you're going to get before and after and all that stuff is going to be different. But the World Baseball Classic too, they had that last year, and that definitely affected things. But you get to go down there, you get to talk to players. They are more willing to talk to you at that point about whatever, because there's just, they got the whole day, and even though they're getting their work in, it's not as pressure filled or as stressful or as just so many appointments like they have in a season when it's the grind of the day-to-day baseball games.
So you never know. I mean, I'd like to put that into the atmosphere.
Okay. I'm sure no one's listening. We'll see, is anyone listening to that? I mean, is there anyone here in the building that is hearing that?
Maybe hearing it, right. Just think it would be a cool thing, first year show, get them out there, establish that.
Hey, man, just creating things to sell.
Right.
Create things to sell.
Another opportunity to sponsor.
Thing. That's right.
Absolutely.
Sponsor us going to spring training. Put it out there.
Let's talk real quick about the national championship last night. Pretty easy win for Michigan in the end. Really looked like a blowout. I know I texted you guys in the early going when I think in the first quarter, Michigan averaged something like 20 yards a rush. Like basically every time they handed it off, there was a gigantic gaping hole and a player loose in the secondary running free. Washington tightened things up. They made good adjustments defensively. And it seemed like there were a couple of real swing plays that affected the game. The first and most important being the opening play of the third quarter, right? Washington comes out with the ball down 7, and right away, Penix not only gets leaned on his ankle, which maybe affected his performance the rest of the way, but lofts up a little interception. Really reminded me of the first play of the Rose Bowl, except that play got overturned. And I thought it was maybe the key to Michigan winning the championship. They turned it over in the first play of the Rose Bowl, and the game got overturned because the Alabama defender had 1 foot grazing the out-of-bounds line and was officially an out-of-bounds player when he caught it. Michigan made a clean play. There was no controversy. Later, there was a big hold that took back a big chunk play downfield, and it looked a little dicey on the call, but whatever. Michigan was stronger, better at the line. They win.
We hear it all the time, right? Defense wins championships, but then you get that running game going. You get that running game going, and you're just shoving it down their throats. And those runs that they had in the first half. I mean, that was pretty to watch. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of like the old school football that you're used to seeing, where you're like, okay, just stepping on their throat, kind of getting down there and everything. But I thought for Penix, it's like, it's a bad time to have an uncharacteristic game. It's a bad time to not be at your best. And I'm sure that I wonder with him, like, what do you think that was? Nerves? Do you think it was just the pressure of the big game? I don't know. Was that a little bit of his line and just the rest of the people around him? But for Harbaugh and for that team, tough team, right? Like that was a tough road for them, and they were able to overcome a lot of that adversity, that they self-inflicted, that they had earlier in the season. But nonetheless, they didn't allow it to become a distraction. They were able to go ahead and push through it. And then yesterday, I felt like just the tougher team. They were just a tougher team, like you said.
It's something I was actually thinking about, Braden, during the game, is how unfair in some ways and revealing in other ways big games are. Because on one level, right, Michael Penix, you can look at his entire year, and you can look at his body of work, even going back to Indiana, and say, coming back from multiple knee injuries, the way he's been able to push the ball downfield and go, well, here's a great NFL prospect going into the upcoming draft. And then you watch him play a couple series against Michigan and really miss on a critical window throw, be a little inaccurate in that early window, and go, I caught myself in the game going, oh, I don't know. Maybe not. And it's kind of unfair, isn't it?
Well, the thing is with championship games is they usually, just in football in general, it's a lot of the time semifinal games are better than the championship game. And a lot of that has to do with, especially in college, you got a month to prepare for your opponent. And so the teams that prepare the best usually do very well in the semifinals. That's why, a team like last year, like TCU, was able to beat Michigan last year. They had a month to prepare for Michigan and drop different things. And that's why those games are always so close. Plus, both teams are doing whatever it takes just to get to the national championship. And then you got a 1 week turnaround where you just partied and celebrated. We made it to the national championship. And to me, the biggest differences are in those games are teams that have been there and have done that before. You saw it with Georgia last year. You saw it with Georgia the last couple of years. They have come to the point where it's just another game for them and it's business as usual. And the same thing I think can be said about Michigan. They've been in the playoff a handful of times now, and they got stunned last year, and that was their goal. We're gonna finish this deal this year. Where Washington, they had a great season. They had a great year. We're not expected to make the playoff. Went out there, won the Pac-12 conference, get to the national championship, and it's hard to say that they were just kind of happy to be there, but some of the plays that happened kind of look like that. As for Michael Penix, there was a couple times he had guys wide open that just dropped the ball, right? It's a big stage. It's a different thing. But after that game and after this season, if I'm an NFL general manager, I like Michael Penix way more than I like J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy was 10 for 18 for 140 yards.
Yeah.
And everybody's crowning him like some great quarterback. He's surrounded with a great offensive line. He's got all day to throw, and he's got great weapons with a great running game. That's why you see these guys, they get drafted really high on really bad teams with no offensive line, and they get killed. Joe Burrow's been hurt twice already, and I think he's a great quarterback, but he's got set up for failure in Cincinnati with his line. Does have some good receivers, and the same thing with Bryce Young. Bryce Young with Carolina, I watched him play against Tennessee in person. I'm like, this guy's really talented. He's probably one of the most athletic players I've ever seen coming out of modern-day high school up in Santa Ana. And you know what? He gets thrown to Carolina. He's got no offensive line. He gets shredded because he's got no chance. So it's tough to gauge on those national spotlights. I think a lot of people always go, oh, well, he didn't win the big game. But a lot of that, there's a lot of factors that play in that. And you know what? As Andy mentioned, teams that win championships in football can run the ball. And if you can run the ball and you got good linemen, you're going to be successful no matter what the task is at hand. Michigan was one of the best teams that could run the ball all season, and they won the national championship.
Well, I'm not a huge Jim Harbaugh fan. And before we get out of this segment, though, there was one thing I really did enjoy last night, which was seeing Jim Harbaugh with his parents down on the field. And, think what you want about the man. And I think a number of things. And there's certainly a lot of controversy around this year's Michigan football season. But Jack Harbaugh, 84 years young and vibrant, healthy as you could imagine, on the national championship stage, was given the opportunity and grabbed the mic to do the famous saying that now both he and Jim Harbaugh's brother John have carried for so many years across so many different teams. And here it was.
Jack Harbaugh, what's your question? I have a question. A question, if I might. Who has it us?
Living his best life.
I love that. It
Jack
was so
Harbaugh.
cute. Fun fact, too, Harbaugh let out a little film secret. I read it in the LA Times. He showed his team nature videos of a pack of wolves because he described it as the perfect fighting unit. And so that was kind of one of his little behind the scenes things.
Okay.
I wondered what you guys thought about that.
That's a major eye roll right there.
Yeah.
Major. That's
Pretty
almost
cringe.
that's
I'd
almost
say
as
highly
cringe as JJ McCarthy with his fake meditation.
Yes.
In front of
my
all
God,
the
thank
cameras
you.
for
Thank
two
you.
games in a row. It's like, oh, make sure all the cameras are on me. I just want to block out the noise. And then he does I'm not against the grounding thing, but to do the whole grounding thing in an indoor stadium on turf, it's not grounding. It's a turf. It's
I need
fake.
to go out and touch grass. Keep moving, kid.
Hold on.
It's outside.
Where's the cameras? I got to make sure the cameras are in place to watch me block out the noise. It's just,
Nature
Major eye
videos
roll.
of a pack of wolves. Hey guys, sit down. We're gonna watch some Discovery right here.
It's the perfect fighting
Yeah.
unit, just like you, my linebacking core.
That's where players.
Look at
That's
them.
where players just sit there and go like, "You've got to be."
Oh
kidding
yeah,
me.
I think
Like,
if you're
seriously.
a player, you're internally eye rolling, or
It's a
if not
major eye
externally
roll.
too. But yeah, I
Major
thought about
eye
that if
roll.
like you're sitting down a group of of baseball players. What are you showing them? You know what I mean? Like what?
It's a good question. What are you?
I don't know. I
showing them?
couldn't think of one. I thought it'd be fun for us, but then I was like, no, I can't even think of
Could
anything.
you imagine?
So
Just stay with me in this moment as we get ready to go to break. Imagine a darkened meeting room. Manny Machado sitting there with Xander Bogaerts, and then Mike Shildt walks in and starts playing nature videos.
they might love it, actually. Now that I think about it, they might be like, yes, this is great.
Guys, the Wolves are the perfect hunting unit. And that's the way you're going to be hunting fastballs
Yes, I was gonna
this
say.
year as a pack hunting of fastballs. This is how we do it, guys. Dig in, let's go. Sis boom ba rah rah.
How they glide across the outfield, leaping into the air to make that
Major
catch.
eye roll.
Next day, Manny Machado's talking to AJ around the cage like, who is this guy, dude? Who did you bring in?
You know what's funny though? I feel like sometimes people think that that's how managers and coaches should be. Like they're supposed to do like the really like avant-garde kind of whatever. And like Braden said, most of the time, any kind of stuff like that is going to get like the biggest cheeseball eye roll. They'll go for like a fun game or something every once in a while, or some kind of like fun, team-centered something or other, but something like that where it's like this motivational whatever that's supposed to get you going. Yeah, they're checked out. They're thinking about their Instagram at that point.
All right, speaking about nature's perfect predatory unit, I've got a little issue at home with
my.
our domesticated predatory unit.
The bathroom?
No.
Are we going
What?
to that again?
No,
Okay.
no. That's. Wait a second.
Okay. Yeah. Keep going, Craig.
Hang on. Wait. No. Move on. I'll explain what I mean and maybe get Annie on board too when we come back. It's Annie and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Ooh.
10:49 on 97.3 The Fan. It's Annie and Elsten with Annie Halbern, Craig Elsten, Braden Soprenet here with you till 2 o'clock. Still working on Annie's mic if you're watching. Or mic is fine. Mic's on, yeah?
Mic is on. Mic
Yes.
is on. Computer.
Camera.
Thank you.
going on?
Camera.
It's something
It is
new
off.
every day that I have never seen before in
But
my
it's
life.
only me. Notice that
I
all the
know.
technical difficulties, every day there's a new one that occurs around Annie.
And every time Adam's
It's like a curse.
well, you got to get used to it, and you can sit in on the other shows. And I'm telling you right now, Scraby and Paul are not fixing the camera being blocked by the desktop.
Well,
That's
I'd just
insane.
like to note that in the 4 minutes since we were last on the air, Annie has managed to completely tangle her earphones.
completely.
I mean, like to the level
Entirely.
of like if you had a 2-minute challenge, tangle this as much as you can in 2 minutes, and then your opponent has to untangle it in a minute 59. That's the level of tangle to
And
which I
yet,
see.
I just did it in what do you think?
So
that
you
was
win.
like under a minute?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a game I like to play with myself. How hard can I make things for myself? It's a little fun. It's a little racy for me. It's cool.
All right, so just got to tell you about something that's going on at home because it's an issue.
Okay.
It's an issue, and it's one that I feel like I am just a facilitator to the issue. We have a pug at home.
Oh.
His name is Sammy. Sammy is a rescue dog. We got him from a great person named the Pug Queen, who's pretty Instagram famous and works out of L.A., but like rescues pugs from China, Mexico, places here in the country where they've been abused or mistreated, neglected, etc. Really, really cool person. And we drove up there. Gosh, our first pug died in It was like September or October 2018. That we got Sammy. And Sammy is great. We absolutely love Sammy. Key part of the house. If you're a pug owner, you know it. You know what I mean. Sleeps in the bed, the whole thing. And he loves us very
Part of the
much.
family.
Very much loves his dad. And his bro, my son James, loves us both to the point that our undergarments are his favorite snack.
Oh wow.
My dog eats my underwear.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't literally consume it, but
Wait, like out of the hamper or like
Out of the hamper.
Oh, okay. So dirty underwear.
dirty underwear
Okay.
out of the hamper,
Wow. All right.
tips the hamper, brings the boxers over to his pillow.
Just the boxers or also
Socks too.
but what about like your wife? Like
Nope, just
okay.
me.
All right.
Just me, not her.
Interesting. Okay.
And chew, chew, chew. Chew, chew, chew. And then there's a bunch of holes in it.
Oh.
Then I've got, I used to have unholy underwear, but now I have holy underwear. So on one level, I've got it going for me. On the holiness level, I feel much holier than I used to. I used to be unholy. I used to be completely unholy with my underwear. Now I am holy. But unfortunately, my underwear is holy, WHOLLY, holy, HOLEY, because like he'll get them. And like I have to like literally not put my underwear in the hamper. I have to like throw it straight in the washing machine, or else. And he does it with my son's socks too, and mine. Okay. Like half my socks have holes in them,
Okay.
but those go in here. It doesn't really matter. But like the holy underwear is kind of a thing.
I mean, they say if you were to get into like, and I mean, let's hope that you never get into a position where, maybe you need a little, this is going places that is not great, but you need a little trip in the ambulance or something, or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you're really not supposed to, it's like, that's when they're going to know,
Right.
holy underwear or holy socks. Like, what's
Yeah.
this guy doing?
Bend over and cough.
I mean, it's really getting to places, but this is interesting. Now, did your former pug do this?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. And the thing about a rescue, maybe, could we have done a better job of getting some certified training for this dog? Maybe we could have. I don't know. We love him for all of his flaws, but like he drives my son crazy. But also, my son will just pile his hamper full of clothes. So not only does he pull a sock out of there, but he tips it over, and there's like this avalanche.
I mean, smart dog though.
He's
very able to
worthwhile.
figure this out.
Very
know?
street
Yeah,
savvy.
street savvy, exactly.
Yeah, Michael in the chat says you need a taller hamper. I need a hamper with like electric wire around it in order for this not to happen. This dog makes it happen. And now I feel like I'm just the enabler in the relationship, because what am I going to do today I'm going to go to Target and I'm going to buy 2 new 5-packs of boxers because I'm down to like 3 pair now. I had like 13 pair and now I'm down to like 3 pair because they've all been chewed through.
So far today, we've learned about your bathroom habits and your boxer collection. This is it's really, really a lot. But hey, this was my question. What are you going to do? Because you can't just keep buying new boxers. I mean, I guess you could.
I think I could.
Okay, because the dog, what the dog wants, the dog gets. It's a rescue dog. I mean, you got to love the dog, right? I mean, the dog. This is what the dog could have much more expensive taste, I guess, and Sammy could really want a lot more, and you'd be in a lot worse problem, But Sammy wants your boxers.
Wants, needs, and like just yesterday. This is why it triggers me. Like yesterday, go for a run, come home. All of it. He bopped into the bathroom while I was in the shower.
Yeah, he wants them now. He's not waiting.
And then, he found another one in a hamper. So I'm like, you ruined this pair of underwear. Oh, no. I throw it in the recycling. Come back. There's another one on the pillow. I'm like, that's 2. What am I going to do? I'm just going to go buy more.
Do you wrestle the boxers from him and then reuse them, like after you wash them? Or are you just like,
this
is now your
true toy? It depends on the level of damage.
Okay.
It's just, real talk. It depends on the level of damage. Like one tiny little hole. Depends where it is, but over here on the side of the leg, I'll probably let that slide for a little bit. But once you start, munching out the crotch area, it's pretty much. Don't take that out of context, Braden. Just don't.
I regret that I'm not on the YouTube stream right now because
I regret everything. I currently regret every decision I've made in the last 5 minutes.
I let
Braden just let this go.
I let Craig be the solo guy on the thing. Well, I had to go out for a second, but
yeah, he disappeared.
I'm trying to get Annie back on the.
So for Christmas, you're just gonna want packs of boxers.
Yeah, I asked Mitzi, why didn't you give me boxers for Christmas? She's like, well, you have plenty. No,
you don't. Sammy has boxers.
It's not a crime if I just keep buying the boxers, and it's just commerce, and that's where we are. That's how hour number 1 of Annie and Elsten comes to an end.
Woo, sweating a little.
On San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, welcome back to Annie and Elsten on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon here in San Diego, where we have been talking about underwear. Yes, that's right. Holy and unholy underwear, crotchless underwear. We're in a lot of places. We are really
not purchased that way.
Well, essentially.
Speak for yourself.
It is an East County type show. Got the chaps on there, Craig.
It is an East County type show. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe the listeners will have some advice for you. I don't own a pug. We do have a husky that my nephew has, who's wonderful. He likes socks, and he likes you can't let him around like small animals like rabbits and things like that.
Okay.
He really likes those too. But yeah, I'm feeling for your problem here, Craig.
Well, I don't know if other people have this problem.
It's just it's sensitive to your dog's
Is
nose.
this a breed thing? Is this just a Sammy thing? Does everyone else's dog
It's comfort
chew
for
out their
Sammy.
underwear?
Yeah.
I read somewhere online that it's literally a sign of affection. Oh. It's like, I get to know you type thing, I guess.
I see that. Wants to feel part of the family, Braden, Braden has a dog, right?
I had a dog. He passed away.
No. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I always have to tell people I like dogs, but I'm not one of those people that's like obsessed with dogs.
Right.
Sure.
I loved having my dog around. We got him when I was in 7th grade, and he just passed away last year. I mean, he was 16 years old.
Yeah.
Guy was
Full
still
life.
ticking, and he was still ticking enough where like he wasn't like miserable. For those last couple of years.
That's great.
Even though he was kind of like, he was doing some things that made it a little bit more difficult for, us to take care of him. But it was still like, he'd be spry and run around the backyard and like do his thing. So, but it was such a tough experience like near the end because you knew the days were numbered. And then, the dog was like, he like reversed his potty training where like he was going in the house and not outside. It was like, it was such a brutal like finish to it. I was like, I'm gonna have to take a break from owning a dog. But I also think like I can't personally own a dog until I think I get to a point where I could be there and take care of the dog. Because like you guys know, like in this industry, you're working nights, you're working weekends. Right. Like there's a lot of times where like I don't get home. Like I'll leave early in the morning at like 7 in the morning, and I'm not back till 10 at night. I'm not gonna have a dog like sit at home all day. Like that's not fair to the dog.
Sure.
So
I agree with you.
When I get to a point, maybe when I have my own family and other people in the family can take care of the dog, then I'll have one again. But I loved having a dog around. But at the same time, I'm not like overly. I'm not craving to have another dog like. Really soon, but I like animals. I like everybody else's dogs. I don't have a problem with them, but there's a lot of people that are just really into their animals, and that's cool. That's what they are there for and stuff. But I'm not a big like bring your dog to a restaurant guy. That's not really my thing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of places for me that people love bringing their dogs. I personally don't. I'm not gonna get mad at you for doing it. Like you do your own thing, but that's my thing on dogs and pets in general.
Well,
I like dogs, but I'm not obsessed.
As I think you might imagine, I don't trust Sammy to go to a restaurant.
I didn't trust my dog going anywhere.
I think it's amazing that people have dogs that are so trained and so chill.
Yeah.
Like my buddy Jerry and his girlfriend Julie, we just hung out the other day at Cafe Calabria just playing board games, and like their 2 dogs just laid underneath the table for like 3 hours, just like completely chill.
If you have
no
the
worries.
right dog. If you have the right dog.
Sammy would be out trying everyone's meal in the entire restaurant.
It's
like,
true.
Popping up, putting his head up on the table. Hey, what you got there? What you got there?
Yipping at other dogs. Hey, look.
Woo.
Hey, welcome back.
Yes, we made this work. Hey, shout out to Mike and the engineering team who worked hard on getting me back up on the YouTube
and
stream.
You, Braden, you worked
and you,
hard
Braden,
too.
That's
and you,
right.
Braden.
And Paul, and like I think it was all hands on deck at the station. Today's the day.
Yeah.
I mean, Tuesday we're full force around these parts, and everybody dropped what they were doing to make sure Annie was back on camera.
Thanks, everyone.
We got it done.
All right, before we were talking about dogs, we were talking about the national championship game. I see a lot of talk, right? You guys see a lot of talk too about Jim Harbaugh. Will he go and become the Chargers coach? Will he become the Raiders coach? I personally do not see Jim Harbaugh taking that Chargers job. I don't know that I see the Chargers offering him that job. I don't know that I see them relinquishing enough control there where he could go in and do his own thing necessarily.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the Spanos is they tend to hire the same person repeatedly. Like it's a little variation, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but they tend to hire the same similar types over the course of their organization, and a few deviations here and there, but not much, right? Now they are in LA where, I don't know that they're the most relevant. I don't think that they are. So maybe they're looking to make a big splash or something like that. I also wonder, would he want to be, and I'm curious what you guys think, would he want to be in an AFC team? Would he want to potentially be going against his brother at some point? Is that a thing, right? His brother is the head coach for the Ravens. But you also got to think about the sanctions. Like, are those sanctions going to come down next year where he does need to kind of escape, do that whole thing where he goes to the NFL? Maybe not his ideal situation, but that's going to be a good way to sort of get away from whatever might be happening with Michigan. What's your thoughts?
Pull a Pete Carroll.
Pull Pete Carroll.
That's
exactly.
I firmly believe that part is happening. I think him leaving Michigan is going to happen.
Right.
And I understood why yesterday, because they have to. Reporters asked him the question on the field and at the podium, is this it? Are you going to leave? And at that moment, I truly understood Jim Harbaugh with this sort of exasperated, like, can I just enjoy this?
Yeah.
Like, this just happened. Can I just enjoy this? Do I have to talk about tomorrow or next week or the month after? Right now, we literally won the national championship. Let's talk about that. So I understand that. I understand the emotion that I saw from him when he hugged his mom and dad down on the field. And I think he's gone from Michigan. Why would you stay and let the hammer fall on your head?
Right.
Do a Pete Carroll. Move, get out, go back to the NFL. Your star is never going to be brighter than it is coming off a national championship from the University of Michigan. What more are you going to win? Another one? Try and erase Bo Schembechler's name on halls and replace it with Jim Harbaugh? It's not going to happen. But going to the NFL and getting a gigantic payday can happen. So I think he'll be the Raiders head coach, probably. Antonio Pierce is I thought he did fine.
I think that's kind of what annoys me. Antonio Pierce has done a good job, and they've been playing for Antonio Pierce. Let the guy have a chance, But yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders are interested in him. Will he go to the Raiders? That to me actually seems like a fit. A big name there. The Raiders are kind of known for doing that sort of thing. But Antonio Pierce does deserve a chance. Like, he's done a good job.
So maybe the Chargers will interview him, or they will hire Michigan offensive coordinator Sharon Moore, which would be very much the LA/San Diego Chargers way of doing things. Yeah. Who is that high-paced coach? Well, who was the guy who worked underneath him? Let's see if we can get him on $1 million deal.
Now, see, that's
for 4
where
years.
I think they could go. Exactly. And he knows the system. He knows what they're all about, but he's an up-and-comer. He's hungry. He's ready to go. So I could see them going that route.
This might be the only time I'd even be willing to think of the Spanoses paying for Jim Harbaugh. Because if there isn't a more critical time in the LA Chargers franchise history, I mean, it's got to be right now, doesn't it? We're halfway through the rookie deal for Justin Herbert. There's just a couple of more, like 2-3 more years before he becomes a weight on the salary cap and, gets into that Russell Wilson territory where now he's, going to dominate the cap so much that you can't fill it with the rest of players. This is the one time where you could go like, we're going to give you all the money, Harbaugh. We're going to give you the control. And you've got these couple 3 years where Herbert's still on his rookie deal that you've got the opportunity to really put a team together and go for it. And knowing Harbaugh and the way he kind of puts the adrenaline jolt into a franchise, they'd probably make the playoffs next year. But, it's still the Chargers, so he'd be throwing his career down the toilet if he goes to the Chargers.
That was this year. He did sign a 5-year Herbert did sign a 5-year extension worth $262 million. So even as much as all of that was spot on, that was the last 5 years. They already messed that up. So now you're paying all this money to a quarterback, which I think is valuable. He's the type of quarterback I think you could give that kind of money to.
Right.
But now it's like, the thing with Harbaugh, he likes to control everything. And the reason why he's had so much success in college is because he doesn't have to coach the same guys for 5, 6, 7 years, and those guys get tired of his act. But when you're in college and you got guys, especially now with the transfer portal and everything, you only have to deal with Harbaugh for like a year, 2 max, and then you're out of there. At the Niners, people like a lot of the reports from the players coming out of the Niners playing for Harbaugh it was really good at the beginning, and then his act got old. You know, the playing the Wolves videos and stuff like that. Right. I mean, Harbaugh is a very unique individual, and people love him on the surface, right? He's entertaining. I think he's very entertaining. But people get tired of his act. The other thing, he likes to be in control of everything we said. He's not going to let a family member of the Spanos call player personnel shots. Why do you think the Spanos family always hires these new guys?
Right.
So their son can still call all the shots and never get fired.
I'd like to introduce you to my son, John. He's extremely talented. He knows so much about football. You'll learn so much from him. You're going to love working with John. John is really just the best. He's the absolute best. Come on in, Jim. You're going to... hang on. I got another call. Yeah. And that's how Sharon Moore finds his way inside Chargers Park.
That's how it is. I mean, that's how it's going to be. That's why everybody that said, like, oh, Bill Belichick could be the Chargers coach, I immediately rolled my eyes going... He has carte blanche in New England right now. He is in charge. They don't have a general manager. He runs the show, which he's run himself into the ground with his last quarterback decisions. But a guy that just was able to run the Patriots and make decisions on every single player personnel assignment to have to work with one of the Spanos kids, nobody's going to sign up for that job because everybody in the industry knows what that job entails. That's why only rookie guys do it. Because they have to. You can't pass up an opportunity as an offensive defensive coordinator to be a head coach for the team in LA, even if it's the second fiddle team. You can't pass that up. But if you're one of these high-profile coaches, you'd be like, I'm not jumping on a sinking ship. I don't want that job.
I now love the 2 different mental images I've gotten from this show, Annie. The first is Manny Machado inside a Peoria film room being treated to Mike Shilt's Pack of Wolves video and the reaction that Manny would give him. And the second is Bill Belichick being in an interview with Dean Spanos and having Dean go, have you met my son, John? Welcome John into the room. Let's just have a little sit down, a little chat.
You know what? Retiring and fishing doesn't sound like a bad idea. Right. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a couple of years off.
I don't see it working. I just don't see that relationship really being successful or Harbaugh wanting that. Now, hey, maybe he does. Maybe he wants to be in LA. Maybe that's, maybe he kind of looks at it like I'll be able to. I'm Jim Harbaugh. I'm a smart dude. I'm going to be able to wield, kind of my puppeteering, I guess, a little bit over this because it's the Spano, it's the Chargers. I'm going to be able to figure it out and make things go my way. But I don't know. Yeah, that's a lot of money that someone's going to pay. And I personally don't think that that's really the route that they're going to go. But it's being rumored quite a bit.
When's the last time they hired a veteran coach? Marty Schottenheimer?
Yeah,
I think it was. Marty Schottenheimer.
Norv Turner.
He was part of the organization, but then after that, it was Mike McCoy and Anthony Lynn and the boy wonder that they just had. I mean, it's just it's the same deal, and it also goes back to they're cheap and they don't have any money and they haven't paid any of the money that they owe to the NFL yet, and it's an entire disaster. Where you go into the move again, it's like the only reason why it makes sense is if you sell the team, and they haven't done that yet. That's where they make all their money. It's baffling to me, and you kind of overlook the Chargers being cheap because the NFL has a salary cap, so they have to spend a certain amount of money.
Right.
But they make up for the cheapness in the coaching hires and the way they run their organization and the dollar to rent out SoFi Stadium and all that stuff. That's why a lot of coaches don't want to be on that sinking ship.
There it is. Chargers talk every time. And now I wonder, is there an in-house shower here at Odyssey?
Get your cold shower in.
Right.
There you go.
Be
refreshed for the next hour, Craig.
Manny low-key likes this sort of thing. Like I could see Manny watching nature videos. Manny likes chess. Manny's got a lot of low-key interests that he just kind of finds fascinating. Mm-hmm. So I think that if Mike Shildt is listening, I think he goes this route.
By the way,
he lets Manny watch a little nature.
You mentioned Mike Shildt. He'll be joining us on Thursday.
Hey.
Oh,
at 10:35.
Really?
That is correct.
First Padres guest on Annie and Elsten, Thursday, 10:35. The skipper, Mike Shildt.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Mike Shildt in that segment then. Why
Let's
not?
talk Mike Shildt.
We'll do that when we come back. It's Annie and Elsten. We are live on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Padres fans know to tune in to 97.3 The Fan. I can read. Let's try again. Padres fans know to tune in to 97.3 The Fan for the best local sports talk. But did you know you can jump back to what you missed?
Ooh.
With the free Odyssey app, you can rewind to the moments you care about most, all with just a few simple taps. Search for 97.3 The Fan, find your show, and listen to the most recent episode. Download the free Odyssey app today. That's AUDACY. And get started.
Go, team, go.
Woo! Andy and Elsten here with you till 2 o'clock on 97.3 The Fan. Shout out to everyone who just listened to this on the Odyssey app.
Yeah.
At some point in the future.
I think the chaptering is really cool, actually. I've used that a few times, just trying to find certain interviews or certain segments, and it's pretty cool how I don't know, Braden, do you do that, or does that happen naturally?
I type all that stuff in.
Okay, well, good job.
The chaptering yesterday was so the technology with the breaks, it will create the chapters, and then I got to fill it in. Yesterday, they created a bunch of random chapters inside the segments.
Oh, yeah?
It was super off. There was a handful of those. So if you look right now, I have not thrown in the chapter names yet. So thanks for reminding me that, Annie.
Well, thanks for doing that.
I'm going to throw it in there and try to be on it as quickly as possible, because sometimes, as the show goes on, you're like, what did we do in that segment? Because, you don't always follow the rundown in radio.
That's true.
It's like, all right, what did we talk about this? Did we talk about that? I think we talked about this. I'm going to throw that on there, and I don't want to sway people the wrong way.
So Braden just let us know last segment that Mike Shildt will be coming on from the Padres, new manager, Thursday morning at 10:30. So we're looking forward to that, the 1 week anniversary of the Annie and Elsten show.
Yeah. Can you believe it?
And we haven't really, I literally can. And we haven't really talked about Mike Shildt yet on the show. And it's still certainly a topic of conversation for the Padres. So let's dig in. Bob Melvin was the manager of this team for the last 2 years. And I don't know about you, Annie, but, I was generally pretty happy with Bob Melvin as manager. I certainly had issues with certain things. I think mostly related to either leaving a starter in too long or a reliever in too long. Maybe not an expert bullpen manager, but certainly from a reputational standpoint, doesn't really get a lot better than Bob Melvin. So it's funny to me that I've really come to reconcile this move as much as I have so far.
It's so true. I think that this is a move that they're similar in a lot of ways, and then they're different in a lot of ways. And I mean, Bob Melvin and Mike Shildt. And so Mike Shildt, I look at Mike Shildt, and I think that who I've had the chance to get to know really well the last few years, which has been awesome because he's been around the big league team, right? Like he's had a lot of different, I guess he's been like kind of a utility player for Preller and for the coaching staff since he came over, and done a lot with the minor leaguers. We've talked about that. He's done a lot at the major league level too. Was a guy that was really close to Blake Snell, really close to guys like Tommy Pham during his days. Gets to know players on a very personal level. Now, some guys don't want that, and that should be pointed out. Some guys are not into that, and I think that he's going to have a good feel, and he's going to have to find that feel, right? And I know he knows that, for which players kind of want what, right? But the thing about Mike Shildt that I think about is, spent his entire career with the Cardinal organization, was a winning manager. His 4 years with the Cardinals, a .559 winning percentage, 3 consecutive postseason berths. But more than that, he was part of that family. I mean, he grew up in that organization, had so much success in their minor leagues, then was, brought up to the big leagues, success there. Everyone knew him. He knew everyone. He essentially you go through like a grieving period, you go through an angry period, but then you want to come back and you want to do it differently. Not that he did anything wrong, but like, you want another chance. You want to show that you still have a lot of things that you can contribute. And that's kind of where he's at. Where Bob Melvin, he was in his 19th year. I think he's 19th or 20 now with the Giants. And Mike Shildt, well, he's been a manager 4 years. Like, he has a lot left in him in terms of managing.
Right.
And he's ready to show that. Like, and now you have someone that's worked with AJ Preller and that staff for the last 2 years. That could be good and bad, right? Like, sometimes you want a guy to come in and really forcefully assert what he wants. But this is the new age of managing in Major League Baseball. You are not
the shot caller. You are working with the group, and that is part of the job now. So there's just a lot of action, I think, where Mike Shildt is going to be poised to really kind of step up and show what he's got. And I believe he's got a lot to give.
You can say what you want about AJ Preller and the way he handles his managers, his coaching staff, his desire to sometimes be not there even for weeks. Other times, all that stuff came out around Melvin, right? The 3 a.m. phone call on the road. You've just gotten back in your room after you're losing Colorado and it's midnight. And you call at 3 and then you get another call at 6. Like he called before the pickup basketball game and after the pickup basketball game to check
something. And for a guy at Melvin's stage of his career, you could imagine how that would be potentially abrasive. Right? You could imagine how that type of working relationship could be something where he's like, you know what? Yeah, I worked for Billy Beane, another guy who was a progressive and somewhat intrusive GM, but Billy Beane famously was running on the treadmill during games. Like, he wanted to give zero input. And Preller is, not that he's calling during games, but he's someone who wants his fingers in the pie at every level. So, like, while we probably looked at that at first as a heap on AJ, and maybe that's the right place to be, for Bob Melvin to want to run out the door to San Francisco. At the same time, if the relationship didn't work, the relationship didn't work.
Yeah.
And at some point, whether you want to assign blame here, there, or anywhere, it's a broken relationship. So Shildt, everything I've seen, read, heard about and from Mike Shildt has gotten me excited for Padres baseball. Bob Melvin always kind of gave us that, well, it's great to be here and I sure am happy, and kind of like a folksy, it's good, it's cool. But Shilt's like fired up. He knows this is his second act. He knows that if he fails here, the third act is less likely. He took a 2-year deal, which a lot of people equate to a 1-year deal in Major League Baseball. So he's got all his chips in on the 2024 Padres. Quite frankly, Annie, he's the only person I know who has all his chips in on the 2024 Padres. Maybe AJ.
Yeah, I mean, if you're AJ too, like you need to make this work. This one needs to work, and it needs to work for both parties. Both parties have a very vested interest in making this relationship work. And I agree on the Bob Melvin thing in terms of, like, sometimes a relationship just doesn't work. I mean, there were times I think that Preller and his staff gave the reins to Bob Melvin, and maybe Bob didn't grasp them in the way that maybe he could have. And then there were times that maybe he wanted some reins that he didn't get, or some communication that he didn't get. It was a back and forth. It's probably fruitless to go back and rehash that whole thing, except to say there was a problem, and that problem I don't think was going to get fixed. So you start again, you start fresh, you start with a new relationship. You both learn things from both sides, right? And you kind of step over that pile and you move forward, right? That's really the only thing you can really do at that point. So I think that they're both well aware of that. And I think that Preller's group does allow their managers to have a lot of say. And I think that that's one thing that I know we try to point out a little bit more at the end of last season is yes, it's a collaborative relationship, but this is not just AJ Preller and company calling all the shots by any means. The manager is going to get the ability to manage a game, the ability to do things, set up systems, set up processes and things like that are mostly going to be the manager's way or the coaching staff's way and whatnot. Now, of course, there's all kinds of variables. I said this before in an interview. When you have a good relationship with a GM, sometimes, I mean, there's just so many different things. Like a player in the clubhouse might go, hey, can I really trust my manager if the manager is really kind of more on the GM side, or
Right.
there's so many little intricacies, but you still want that, right? Like you don't want a bad relationship between both parties. You want a good relationship and one that can be worked on. And the thing about Mike is, which is a little different than Jace Tingler, because Jace Tingler was new to the job. Mike's already done the job. He knows that there are lines that you have to be delicate around when it comes to players. It's a really hard job now, a manager in Major League Baseball. You have to appeal to the clubhouse and you have to appeal to the front office. And those two sides, they are not always, working together for whatever reason, whatever players in whatever part of his contract or whatnot. So it's a difficult job. It's a very sensitive job. You have to be very sensitive to both parties. And I do think Mike Shildt is that.
And he's had these years in the organization where if he wasn't going to be able to do this, he wouldn't be in the job.
Right.
Like, obviously, he'd want the job no matter what. There's only a handful of jobs, only a couple open up every year. When you've had one and then you haven't had... I mean, did Mike Shildt really get interviewed for any jobs while he was with the Padres? Does anyone know that?
No, I don't believe that he had any formal interviews. I think there was some interest at some point, but I don't think that it escalated to a formal interview. He did when he came over to the Padres speak with AJ, and I thought it was really cool that at that time he was pretty honest about the fact that he was too raw coming off the Cardinal job to want to really step in as the manager. And I think both parties kind of agreed to that, but also, look, he has so much to offer. Let's get him on board. And so I think that was kind of a win-win situation. But I'm not also sure how much Mike put himself out there for certain jobs. So in fairness to him, I'm not sure like how much that was explored.
Yeah. Whether it is a situation where this was the only job someone wanted to give him, or whether it was a situation where a dozen teams would be interested in hiring Mike Shildt at some point down the road. He's the Padres manager now. And he, like I said, he's got everything in the center of the pot right now for his career on this team. Quite frankly, that excites me as a Padres fan, because what do we need? We need greatness in this organization. We need a way to get to the playoffs year after year. And, Bob Nightingale writes yesterday, well, their World Series dreams has dwindled down to being a wild card aspirant. That's how you make the playoffs. Yeah. You make the playoffs as a wild card. You beat a division finalist. You're in. You're all the same at that point. If top team gets a bye.
I don't know that the bye helps anymore.
Right.
I feel like the bye in baseball kind of can hurt you sometimes.
It puts all the pressure on. The Dodgers every year get to spend all this money and all this time to win something between 98 and 117 games. And then what they get for that every time is a forced break followed by 2 games at home that they have to win. Yeah. You have to win them both, because what happens, and what has happened to LA basically every time, is they drop one of those first 2 games, and now they're in a best of 3 with 2 on the road in an even footing, and they're in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to every number 1 seed. So I don't care how we get there. I just care that we get there, and that we have the team that is galvanized and together to put their best foot forward. The 2023 Padres put their best foot forward in the final 2 weeks of the season against the worst teams in baseball when the ghost was already gone. Mm-hmm. And it was done. We had the 1% chance to surge back and you couldn't even get Josh Hader out of the bullpen. The percentages were so low. What are we, in a playoff race? Well, no more thanks to you, buddy. Nonetheless, that team never, ever was on the same page. 2 weeks of cosmetic wins to squeak us to a winning record. Now, we had a winning record. No, we were never together. So as much respect as I have for Bob Melvin as a manager, all of his experience, all of his accomplishments in multiple places, manager of the year in the American League, National League, obviously he's a great manager. It didn't work here. And it wasn't a great, from a manager standpoint, what was put out there last year was, quite frankly, super disappointing. So while I don't blame Bob Melvin for the 2023 Padres, I'm really excited to see what Mike Shildt's going to do in 2024.
Yeah, and Bob Melvin San Francisco might just be a better fit for him. And it might be, too, I know this sounds like, come on, Annie, sometimes you can have too many superstars. You really can. You can have a little bit of dysfunction that is just the product of just not knowing kind of where people's roles are. And, you push too much on the players, and the players will at some point resist that. But you're too hands off, and the players, depending on the clubhouse and depending on the veteran leadership and depending on guys that have been in the organization a long time and how much they want to step up, like there's just so many variables. And it's he might thrive more in a situation that maybe is a little bit more like Oakland, where you're kind of getting a little bit more of like the scrappy, the hungry, the guys that are not maybe necessarily, top of the heap in terms of contracts and things like that. And you get a few of them and you're able to just put together, I guess, your stamp, right? Because that's all it really is. It's so subjective. Like you might fit somewhere else just better, or maybe there's just a better working relationship. But this might be from Mike. Even if he, was going out and I don't know if he was interviewing with a bunch of different teams, San Diego might just be his best fit, an ability to kind of put his stamp on the way that he wants to and still have a roster that is, in the 200 millions or whatnot, still being able to get some guys, sign some guys. It's two different rosters this year too, between Bob Melvin and Mike Shildt. It's two different teams that they're going to have. So I think it's going to be a little hard to compare them like apples to apples, nor should we, right? Because every year is so different. But I think that Mike really, a big signature thing of his is he cares a lot. He wants to, care personally about the players, personally about the people inside the organization. But he's pretty hands-on. He's pretty hands-on. And I think that he's going to implement, a lot of checks and balances that might be beneficial.
Well, if Bob Melvin was afraid of a star-studded lineup, he's gone to the perfect franchise, the place that finishes second place on every big free agent in the world.
And I don't know that he's afraid. I'm not saying that. I just think sometimes a fit can come about in a different way is all. But yes.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by the Odyssey NFL insider Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You hear him sidelines on NFL broadcasts all the time. Super Wildcard Weekend is coming up. The big matchups. We'll get into it with Ross Tucker when we come back, wrapping up hour number 2 of Annie and Elsten right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Woods on The Fan.
When it comes to Matt Eberflus, you once sung his name to the tune of a Pearl Jam song. I can't get it out of my head. I probably do that 9 times a day in my head.
Me too. Eberflus. I can't stop.
11:44. Annie and Elsten with you on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan, here till 2 o'clock. Going to be chatting some NFL this segment, Annie, as we get ready to bring in our Odyssey NFL insider, Ross Tucker. It's Super Wildcard Weekend. It's go time. It is go time. And they have built this out now so that this is an even more interesting weekend than it used to be.
This is when it gets exciting to me. Like, this is when I love Wild Card Weekend. I love when it's like, okay, here we go. Win or go home.
By the way, I've heard a lot of people complaining on Sports Talk Radio, by the way. I think Sports Talk Radio hosts complain about this more than actual fans, that one of the 6 games this weekend is Peacock only. It is exclusive to the Peacock app, NBC's streaming platform. And so tomorrow on this show, on Annie and Elsten, we're going to do a bonus Netflix and Chill segment, but it's going to be Peacock and Chill.
Oh, okay.
And I will give you the shows that you can enjoy the rest of the month after you sign up for that 1 month on Peacock in order to watch this game.
Do you get the month free? Or are you signing up?
You do not.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's like, ad supported Peacock is either $5 or $6. Okay. It's not a lot of money.
Not a lot, yeah.
If you go ad free, it's like $10 for Peacock. And of course, if you go ad free on Peacock to watch the NFL game, you're nuts because that doesn't take away the NFL's ads.
And isn't this the way of the world? Like, you cannot get away from these streaming things, you know, these one-offs, these Peacocks, these all those. Like, this is just get ready for it, guys, because it's just going to keep growing.
Well, if you're negotiating billion-dollar broadcast deals with the National Football League and you've got a streaming platform that you're trying to get on its legs and build, of course you're going to write that into the deal. Like, hey, we're going to do this and this, and we're going to give you X billion dollars, but also we need at least one thing on Peacock. And they had a Peacock-only game on a Saturday earlier during the holiday break. Now they're going to have a Peacock-exclusive NFL game. That's fine. That's fine.
Or you can do what I did and just get on someone else's Peacock for an afternoon and use their little login and use the honor system. That also worked for me. So
get on someone else's Peacock. Huh?
Well, get on someone else's Peacock. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jump on it.
Thank God Braden isn't like clipping all this stuff.
I don't know. Maybe Braden might be. No, Braden's not participating in this.
When I was talking about Sammy, I said something out of context that I immediately regretted.
I don't know what you're talking about, Craig. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So we'll be chatting with Ross in a second. But of these games, you've got Bills, Steelers, you've got Chiefs, Dolphins, Texans, Browns. I don't care about Texans, Browns. NFC, you've got Cowboys, Packers. Historically, that's fun.
Yeah.
Ice Bowl. Won't be icy inside the Jerry Dome unless things go horribly wrong. Lions, Rams. My dad's still begging for a new place kicker for the Rams. I'm sure they're going to miss an extra point to lose their playoff game.
I love the storylines in that one, though. That's a good one.
That's a fun one. Jared Goff against his old team.
Right.
The whole thing. Buccaneers, Eagles. I don't care about Buccaneers, Eagles.
I think the Cowboys one, I believe the Cowboys have been really good at home, not so much on the road. That one's at Cowboy Stadium, right? That one's at. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to watch, too. I'm really interested in the Rams-Lions one. The Lions haven't had a playoff game. I think it was like 30 years or something like that. And so for them to be getting a playoff game, for them to be in the postseason, and then you have all this like intrigue of the Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff shenanigans. I like that one. Sunday Night Football, I think, for that one.
How much intrigue is there really in this year's NFL playoff bracket? I feel like this is the year that the 2 number 1 seeds are going to meet.
This is Ravens 49ers, right?
Yeah.
Unless something else happens. To me, that's how it's going to shake up unless there's some kind of injury or just some, well, it is football. I mean, that's the fun of the playoffs, right? Like one bad game and that's it.
Sure. But also, NFL is usually where you have the fewest upsets, unless it's an actually semi-even situation.
Right.
Are the Bills going to go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens? Normally, you'd say the Chiefs, right? You'd just go, well, look, it's the Chiefs, it's the playoffs, it's Pat Mahomes. They're going to figure out a way. The Chiefs have been so mediocre this year. They have not looked like a good team for really the second half of the season, right? So
Why? The only reason I like the Chiefs to win the first game is because Miami has been a paper tiger too. They beat losing teams and they lose to winning teams, and they had a chance to be the AFC East champion, and they lost at home to the Bills with a lead.
Right.
So I just don't know that the Dolphins are there yet. I feel like they're kind of incomplete.
I would agree with that.
But then I see the Chiefs losing their next game.
So the Chiefs, the offense has not been as good as we've seen, right? And you kind of wonder too if they had Tyreek Hill, if they would have been able to get over the hump of some of those games. But I can't count the Chiefs out. The Chiefs have so much experience in the postseason. They are championship winners. They are the Chiefs. They are Andy Reid's team, and they know what they're doing. And so as much as they flustered and dropped wins this season, I mean, they really dropped winnable games. I can't count them out in the playoffs.
A couple of things I pick out of the chat here on YouTube. Balsamic Vinny says Peacock is currently doing a $2.99 a month deal for 6 months. So $18 for 6 months.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
I mean, that's
affordable. Yeah.
That's certainly a good
Yeah,
deal. And I'm
it's a
sure
good
you
deal.
can pay it $3 at a time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can almost find enough programming on Peacock to justify $3 a month.
Isn't Peacock just recycling like the other programming, like Bravo and NBC and?
Okay, so yes and no.
Okay.
It is.
Uh-huh.
And you would love Peacock because you love Bravo reality.
Right, but I just get on the Bravo app. Well, see, so I Roku. Okay, so
Okay.
I take download the app, watch now the Bravo app is pretty bad, so maybe Peacock would help with that. But yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious, like, why are you selling me on Peacock? What's it giving me that I don't get somewhere else?
Well, I'll tell you tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, let's not ruin tomorrow's segment today by me just spilling the tea all over our studio. I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
But there's some good original programming.
Okay.
Peacock does have original programming, and some of it is good. And one of my favorite reality shows, period, starts again Friday on Peacock. So
Is that the tease?
that's a tease.
Okay.
I'm
Tune
teasing.
in.
I'm teasing you. Ross Tucker, MIA.
Yeah, I didn't answer the deal, so I'm tracking down through.
No one's answering our
through
calls.
Odyssey.
Braden, what's your NFL take, Braden? What's your big game that you're watching?
Well, the one game I want to watch, but I don't want to pay for Peacock, is the Chiefs and the Dolphins game. I don't know if it's worth $18. Obviously, now if that's the case, there might be some Peacock games for the Padres in those 6 months, so it might work out. But I think that Chiefs Dolphins games would be pretty good. I really like. I mean, obviously there's so many storylines in the playoffs that are all going to be fantastic. You got the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill going to play his former team in the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the reigning Super Bowl champions. You have Jared Goff playing host to his former team that drafted him, that gave up on him for Matt Stafford, who was a member of Jared Goff's current team in Detroit, who they won a Super Bowl with the Rams, obviously, and that's a good storyline. And there's so many great games that are going to play out. And the thing with football, I mean, it's any given Sunday. You never know what's going to happen. And I really think this year is a year where anybody can take it, with the exception of unless the Niners just decide to show up and be the Niners, because they're flat out the best football team. But then the Ravens kicked their ass a couple weeks ago. So it's the beauty of the NFL, the parity of the NFL. I think the Niners are the best team in the NFL. I don't really think anybody in the NFC gives them a run for their money. We'll see what the Cowboys might be able to do. And that Eagles-Buccaneers game might be a trap game for the Philadelphia Eagles, just because they've been playing very poorly the last couple of weeks. But I'm entertained by the National Football League. Looking forward to the playoffs, and playoff football is just a different level of football.
Someone else in the chat said, well, Craig, why aren't you interested in this game? All NFL games are great and good and interesting and exciting. And
You're not into it.
Are they? I mean, are they really, though? Because wasn't there a game like 9-0 quite recently? Wasn't that this week? A 9-0 game, or was it the week before?
That was Tampa against Carolina.
9-0.
There's like a really
Tampa, exactly.
Yeah.
Our great Tampa Bay that I'm supposed to be excited to watch just played a game. The goal is to score a touchdown. Both teams failed the entire game.
I'm a
I like
defensive
the-
coach, Craig. I mean, I
Right.
like shutting people down.
I like a good defensive game. Like I like the good snowy games. I like the good. I'm running,
like a
running
snowy
the football
game. I don't like a
games.
crappy game.
Right, right. But there was that one that was like the It was earlier this season. It was the Chargers and the Patriots, right? And the score on that one was like so abysmal. I remember I was like looking at that one going.
You can have
"Who's
really
watching
good
this?"
games that are low scoring and really bad games that are low
Right.
scoring. You
Right.
can have really
You
good
can have that in
games that are
baseball, too.
shootout
Yeah.
and really bad games that are
Yeah.
shootout. It just depends on the quality of product and the way teams are playing. But the NFL is to me it's just must watch TV, and most of America agrees with that. I mean,
it's true.
They dominated the NBA on Christmas. They
fact,
dominated them.
Our local newspaper is obsessed with the topic of NFL TV ratings, as they use it every single quarter to drive their programming decisions. Krasovic wrote another 2 columns about it. Oh, my goodness. Well, Chargers finished number 1, so now we're stuck with Chargers instead of the much better blibbity-blibbity game. Watch the Red Zone.
Pay for Red Zone.
It's over, okay? It's done. They left. They're gone.
But it is BS that they put those games on for us. I'd rather have,
Right,
if I'm not
want
paying.
something else.
I thought
If I'm
Tom
not-
pointed out that
if I'm not
like he wanted
paying-
the other game. Right.
Yeah, right. If I'm not
Yeah.
paying for Red Zone, and I'm glad I do, right? I'm glad my family does, but I want the better games now. I don't care about the Chargers at all. Give me the Cowboys Niners game. Give me the games that I want to see.
Right.
That's the other thing. That's the big knock in the NFL though, is you can't just go out and watch all the games unless you pay for Sunday ticket like you can with all the other sports.
And we can't just blanket. There are people in San Diego that still support the Chargers, and
Sure.
Most of
in
their
Tom's
fans are
defense,
here.
there's also a lot of haters that
That's
like
right.
click on these things.
I know. And yet, just got to let go. Got to let go. As soon as you let go, you find out
You can't tell fans
Sundays
what to
are
do.
beautiful.
Yeah, you get a lot of time open. That's true.
The generic you. I'm not speaking to you individually. I'm
Yeah,
speaking
I
to
felt that.
the royal you. Hour number 2, 12 o'clock is right around the bend. Lunch hour with Annie and Elsten on the Fan.
Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Halfway home on a Tuesday. Welcome back. Welcome to the lunch hour. If you've just popped into the car or walked outside or you're taking a moment to decompress from your workday, we are glad that you're spending a little bit of time with us alongside Annie Heilbrunn. My name's Craig Elsten. Braden Suprenant is our able-bodied producer, and we are here with you every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. across the platforms worldwide. Annie, we are, of course, on terrestrial radio, FM radio, 97.3, burrowing its way through mountains, finding its way into your ears.
Wow.
We are also on the Odyssey app. So anywhere you have Wi-Fi, you can listen to us from Timbuktu to Temecula on the Odyssey app, AUDACY. After the game is over, and I call the show a game, apparently, in this current rambling discourse, then also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you can take it out, chapter it, figure it out, find the piece of the show that you want to consume. And we're a TV show, too. We are on YouTube every single day, 10 a.m. till 2 on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube page. So shout out to everybody who's been hanging in the chat with us for 2+ hours, and welcome to everyone who is jumping into the show for the first time today.
Yeah, thank you to everyone listening and watching and being part of us. We appreciate it.
I got a hold of Ross. So he said he can join us now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Like now?
Yeah, now.
Let's do it.
I'm going to call him up right now.
Okay. We're going to catch up with our NFL insider.
Keep the NFL talk going.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
No, it's a big week.
While he calls, I'll just let you know, this is worth exactly as much time as we need. Pechanga Arena is back open for business.
So they got the water thing fixed.
Yes.
Ish.
Yes.
Okay.
Still a little bit soggy, according to what I heard yesterday on some parts of the ground floor, but everything is set, and tomorrow night the Gulls will play Coachella Valley, and they'll play Friday, they'll play Saturday, Sockers will play Sunday, so the arena's back, so shout out to the arena.
That's great. That's great to hear.
Good stuff. All right, let's welcome onto the show Odyssey's NFL insider, the host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You see him on and hear him on NFL games. He's the guy who knows what's going on for Super Wildcard Weekend. We welcome Ross Tucker for the first time to Annie and Elsten. Craig Elsten, Annie Heilbrunn here. Thanks so much for your time, Ross.
You know what? It is my pleasure, and I want to start by apologizing. That has never happened to me before. I know I'm with you guys at 11:40 a.m. Through the Super Bowl. So I asked if we could move it back 5 minutes today, and because I had previously scheduled a massage from 1:15 to 2:45 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what happened, but I think the massage therapist lost track of time because she took me till 3. it ended up being an hour and 45-minute massage. I think what must have happened is she must have thought that we started at 1:30. So when I just got done the massage, I looked at the clock. I had like 6 missed calls, and it said 2:58 Eastern. That's literally never happened to me before. So I apologize. I guess I got a free 15 minutes out of it, which is good, but I missed my spot with you guys, so I'm glad we were still able to connect. Sorry about that.
I think that's the single best excuse I've ever heard for missing
agree.
an interview window.
Don't ever apologize for having a long massage. Like, we're jealous of you, Ross. That sounds great.
It's so funny, though. Like, I literally, so, usually when you get like an hour and a half massage, they usually end, they always end it a couple minutes early because they got to get ready for the next person or whatever. So I looked at my phone, and it said 2:58, and I thought, oh, no. And so I'm just so glad you guys still had a chance to talk to me now and that I was able to call on and make it happen. So I am ready for you. Whatever football questions you got, I'm relaxed and refreshed and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I had like 14 more follow-up massage questions, but we will move on. We will get to the games. And, we were just talking last segment a little bit, Ross, vamping as well. It feels right now like it's the Ravens and 49ers tournament. I mean, obviously the number 1 seed is always the favorite. I understand that. But do you feel like it's a little more top-heavy coming in this year than previous years?
No, I don't. I mean, I feel like it's similar. I'm just thinking about last year where I thought Kansas City and Philadelphia were the two best teams, but I also thought San Francisco had a chance to knock off the Eagles, and I thought that the Kansas City Chiefs could go down to the Bengals, right? That the Bengals could beat them. You know, it felt like those were the two best teams in each conference, and you know, we went to the conference championship game, and those were the four teams, and the Bengals gave the Chiefs a good game, and, you know, the Niners lost both their quarterbacks, didn't have a guy that could throw the ball, and next thing you know, obviously the Eagles ran away with it. But I think that's pretty similar for this year. You know, I think, you know, this year I could certainly see the Buffalo Bills giving the Ravens a heck of a game and maybe even winning that with the way the Bills have played as of late. And I think the Cowboys are pretty darn good too. You know, I think the Cowboys will be able to give the Niners a good game, but I still think there's just such an advantage being the number one seed. I actually think the NFL kind of screwed up when they did this because I think the number one seed is just such an edge. I mean, the difference between just having 2 home games versus 3 games, including at least one on the road, that is a gigantic difference. I mean, gigantic. And so the Niners and Ravens were already able to rest their best guys in Week 18. Now they don't even have a game this week. They don't have to win this week. Meanwhile, you know, for Dallas, Green Bay's playing pretty well. For the Detroit Lions, I'll be on the sideline Sunday night, and the Rams and Matthew Stafford, they've been playing really well. And obviously in the AFC, same thing. You know, I don't think the Steelers will be able to beat the Buffalo Bills without T.J. Watt, but you know, for the Chiefs, that Dolphins team, that's not going to be an easy game. So I just think they've probably heavily weighted the number one seed a little bit more than they should have when they went to the 7 teams in each conference. Although I will say this, I thought that all the teams that made the playoffs this year were deserving. You know, there was a time when there was a big concern that we'd be getting teams with losing records in the playoffs if you took 7, but really this year, you could have taken 8 in each conference and still had all teams with winning records.
Ross, we've seen this Chiefs offense this year not look quite as dominant as we've seen in past years, but in a postseason run, with all the experience they have, you still have some great players on that team. How much of a threat do you think they are or aren't going forward in this postseason?
Yeah, you know what? You're right. They have not played as well this year, but it's also one of those things where nobody's going to count them out until they're out, and no one is going to feel good about playing them, right? Like, they still have Patrick Mahomes. They still have Travis Kelce. They still have Andy Reid. There's a reason why Mahomes has been to the AFC Championship game every year as a starter, which is really, really impressive, right? I mean, every year as a starter, he has gotten to the AFC Championship game, and he's been to 3 Super Bowls, and he's won 2 of them. So, you know, I know that if they have to go to Buffalo, Buffalo will probably be favored, but I know the Bills fans won't be real excited about that one, you know, having to face Mahomes and Andy Reid, although it will be nice to actually see Mahomes have to play a road playoff game for once. I mean, he's never had to play a road playoff game in 6 years, which is just crazy.
That is wild, and we'll see if he can manage it this season. That's one of the interesting wild card weekend matchups. Another one over on the other side of the bracket and the other conference, Ross, is Rams and Lions. And, of course, you've got the 2 quarterbacks who were traded for one another with Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff facing off. You've got a Rams team that was expected to completely miss the playoffs and has been one of the plucky underdog stories in the league this year. By contrast, the Lions have been that ascending club, the team that people recognize as having momentum and being a team on the move. Quite an interesting litmus test game here for them to meet one another in the first round of the playoffs.
It's awesome. I think it's the best game. I think it's the best storylines.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I'm going to be able to be there. I'm actually in the booth Saturday night with Kevin Harlan for the Chiefs hosting the Dolphins, and I'll get on the first flight Sunday morning from Kansas City to Detroit and be able to be on the sideline. I mean, guys, their first home playoff game in 30 years.
Wow.
30 years. you had a pretty good run, obviously, there with LaDainian and Rivers, with my favorite head coach in the NFL, Marty Schottenheimer, who was my coach my rookie year in Washington. So you guys had, several home playoff games. They haven't had one in 30 years, which is just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable, and just so cool. So cool that I'm going to be there for it, and the storylines. I will say this, though. The Lions' defense has been a little bit shaky with the pass defense, and I know those fans, I've talked to some of them, they're not real happy at all about the fact that they have to be playing against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. I think they probably wanted anybody other than him.
The Bills, we saw that great win of theirs this past weekend, right? How do you think that they're going to fare against the Steelers?
Very well. I think the Steelers, Mike Tomlin will always get those guys, ready to play, and I think for a while they'll be able to hang. But TJ Watt is just my buddy who's a big Steelers fan. He says he's the Steelers' Jenga piece. You know the game Jenga?
Yes.
Where, you try to pull out those things and you pull out, and the loser's the one that pulls it out and the whole thing comes crumbling down. Well, he's convinced that TJ Watt is the Jenga piece for the Steelers, and they're not going to have him, and that's a real bummer.
We're talking with Ross Tucker, the Odyssey NFL insider here on Annie and Elsten, rolling through hour number 3 of the show and looking at some of these other matchups. Jordan Love really made a push to get the Green Bay Packers into the playoffs. Does the road end here in Dallas? Given what you said about 49ers Cowboys, I feel like it does.
I think so, yeah. I mean, that would be super impressive and really surprising. I think that they'll be able to score some, and I think he'll probably play well, but their defense has really been bad for most of the year, and Dak has had an MVP caliber year, so I would envision and I'd imagine that the Cowboys are able to put up a bunch of points. I think probably a high-scoring, fun game, but one that ultimately I think that the Cowboys win by a decent amount.
Ross, what is a team that people are sleeping on? What is a team that people just might not be giving enough attention to that you think could have a decent run here in this postseason?
I think it's the Cleveland Browns. I think it's the Cleveland Browns because they have arguably the best defense in football. And then you have a quarterback in Joe Flacco. He's not going to be fazed by any of this. In fact, if he can knock off the Texans on Saturday, I don't know if you guys know this or not, they'll set the all-time NFL record for road victories in the playoffs by a quarterback. That's an impressive stat. So right now he's tied with Brady. But if he wins in Houston, very, very possible, he'll set that all-time record, which I think is one of the best records I've ever heard. I mean, we all know how hard it is to make the playoffs, and then to win on the road in the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, that's the type of stat that can get Flacco some legit Hall of Fame consideration, to have that many road playoff victories. So the way he's been playing, they were able to rest some guys in Week 18. They have a very, very good defense. And, that gives them a puncher's chance. And speaking of, Stafford in Detroit, if the Browns beat the Texans, it's very likely to be Joe Flacco in Baltimore, which is just amazing.
Ross, one more thing and we'll let you go. Just stepping off the field for a second. Yesterday, Michigan wins the national championship. Jim Harbaugh able to lift that championship trophy. And we talked about it earlier in the show. There's all kinds of discussion, a little bit of steam coming up on the topic of Jim Harbaugh bolting to go back to the National Football League. Do you think it's a fit, and where would it fit best?
Well, I think he's going. I think it's one of the worst kept secrets in football is that he desperately wants to go back to the NFL. I think that's what he'll do. The fit is interesting. The place where he ends up is very, very interesting. I would not be surprised by the Chargers. Would not be surprised by the Chargers because he probably knows and realizes, he wants a quarterback. And I think the Chargers, obviously, I'm sure there was some familiarity when he was the coach at USD, that I'm sure that he met those. He played for the Chargers organization. He coached in San Diego at USD. So we'll see. I mean, really depends on how people feel about him, right? For Jim Harbaugh, he wanted jobs the last couple of years, but I think that partially his reputation, he's a winner, but there's some concerns that people have, I think, with him at times, which is why he hasn't gotten a job the last couple of years, even though pretty clearly he's won one.
Well, Ross, we thank you so much for your time. I know we'll be catching up with you next week as well and breaking down the divisional round. But thanks for making your debut on our show, at least, and hope that massage pays off for incredible, just being locked in mentally, physically, perfect peace and harmony the rest of the day.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready to go now. You don't need to worry about that. And I will be ready at 2:40 Eastern, 11:40 your time next week. I do not have a massage scheduled, so we're all good.
But if you do, it's fine. If you do, it's completely fine.
And have a great time in Detroit. That's going to be a great game.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, make sure you look for me. I don't know what I'm wearing yet, but anytime a guy gets tackled out of bounds, I run towards it and help him up because I try to get as much TV time as I can when I'm on the radio.
Great strategy.
So look for me while you're watching the game.
Appreciate it. Ross Tucker, NFL Odyssey Insider. Thanks again. There he goes. Good stuff. That was fun.
That was really good stuff. Yeah, he knows his NFL, and I love that he's going to be on the sidelines. Like, that is a fun game to be on. All those storylines and just the atmosphere of not having a playoff game there in Detroit for 30 years. I mean, it's going to be wild. That's going to be a great game.
And I know Ross Tucker is kidding about that last thing he said about like running into the shot and trying to help up a player.
Don't you remember when the Chargers were here? Now if you watch a game still, because there's many people that are still employed by that organization that were with the San Diego Chargers. I see them on the sidelines all the time. I'm like, oh, there's so-and-so. There's so-and-so. So I don't think it's a bad strategy. Let his mom, dad know he's over there,
This literally jogs a very specific memory out of me. Do you remember the name Rick Schwartz?
I don't.
Rick Schwartz used to be a radio host here in San Diego, San Diego Sports Talk Radio. He actually worked out of L.A., but he used to work with John Ireland for a while. He used to host the morning show back on Extra Sports 690 back in the day. Back in the day, and then the late night show. I used to work with him in the late night show. Really gigantic ego dude, but he got a job for a short period of time as a radio sideline guy working national games, just like that Ross Tucker job. I mean, what a cool job.
It's a cool job. I think it's really a great job.
And I very specifically remember the AFC championship game, Colts against the Steelers. Jim Harbaugh was the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, Captain Comeback Jim Harbaugh, and the game ended on a Hail Mary from Harbaugh into the end zone that was an incomplete pass. And Rick Schwartz was standing behind the goalpost. And on national he came running out into the end zone like to pat the dude who dropped the ball on his back. And it was his last one.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding you.
See, that was a time, too, before social media, because that would go so viral so fast. There'd be so many memes from that sort of thing. And you do that then, and it's just like, a one-of-a-kind moment. If you're watching, you saw it, and it's a great story. But, those were the types of, you could maybe do something like that, I don't know, without getting tackled by security guards. But
it was wrong at the time.
Very wrong.
It was deeply wrong at the time.
Very wrong.
And I was like, how far up your own hiney do you have to be to think that this is the time that this NFL player who just didn't catch the Super Bowl achieving, the pass to get you to the Super Bowl?
You're consoling him.
Like he needs to hear from you right now. Like this is the perfect time for you, Rick. This is your time, your time to shine. It was not. See, that's why I know Ross Tucker's not going to actually do that.
No, Ross Tucker is a professional.
Running over. I mean, he's a guy who actually played. Yeah.
Yeah. He's he's probably going to be somewhere in the shot, but he's not going to actually put his hand on the player.
No, just photobomb the shot.
Oh yeah, that's what you got to do. Right. And look like you're working.
Yeah, look very serious.
You get in the back and you look serious, and you're like, oh, you're observing the play, you're working, you're looking at it like a clipboard every once in a while.
Take a note.
Yes, that's what you do.
I like it. All right. We're going to dive into some more baseball when we come back. Big thanks to Ross Tucker. We're going to talk some Padres, though, looking at players who could contribute to this team in 2024. Fangraphs put out an extremely detailed look at players who potentially could contribute and what they might be able to deliver in 2024 to the Padres. Something to chat about later on in the hour. I'm going to try once again to come up with a trade that could maybe help fill our outfield this time. Yesterday we tried to trade for a starting pitcher. I'm off that one now.
Okay.
We're gonna work on an outfielder as the hour continues as well. This is San Diego's #1 sports station, Annie and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan. You know, we were supposed to let you read the liners today.
We had to get our cameras on and stuff. It was just
Are we on a liner?
Yeah, it's liner time. You want to do the 12:20?
Oh, here we go, the 12:20. Okay.
Knock it out. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, Mama's first liner. Tune into kickoff with Boomer Esiason and Mike Valenti going well so far. Every week, Boomer and Valenti preview the entire slate of NFL games. Analysis from Boomer, picks from Mike, the biggest stories in the league packed into an hour. Friday nights at 7 p.m. here on 97.3 The Fan and always live on the free Odyssey app. Presented nationally by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos brought to you by those who drink it. And by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement.
What does that mean? Casamigos brought to you by those who drink it.
As opposed to those who do not drink it. Okay?
So everyone who works at Casamigos drinks Casamigos. Here at Casamigos, we drink one thing, and that's Pabst Blue Ribbon. No, it's Casamigos.
Wouldn't you want people that like tequila to make your tequila?
I would.
Because they know the best tequila?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't drink this, but here you go.
Yeah, I don't really
You
like
can.
this, but like apparently you like this, so you can have this.
Yeah.
Good on you, Casamigos. I think this is, in fact, an excellent business plan.
Yeah. Brought to you by those who drink it. If
Drink
you drink it,
they will
Make
come.
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe. Okay. Annie and Elsten, Annie Halbrun, liner queen. Greg Elsten now off the deal. No longer reading liners.
I'll read liners.
All Annie's job now. There you go.
I'll read your liners.
Love it. Yes. All right. We've got 2 segments back to back here to talk some Padres baseball. And if you missed our Mike Shildt discussion last hour, we invite you to go back and check that out as well. One of the bright spots of what has been unambiguously a negative offseason for the San Diego Padres. The owner died. We traded Juan Soto. We're cutting payroll. We're not returning any of these multiple free agents that are leaving the team. 2023 truly was the most consequential year. However, Padres roll on with Mike Shildt now at the helm and with a minor league system that has been rebuilt over the course of the last 3 seasons. Is this now a season where we could actually see the minor leagues provide tangible benefit to the big league club? Not talking about a Matt Waldron, Pedro Avila, but actual prospect class players, guys who, Eric Longenhagen of Fangraphs writes about all the time in annual prospect reviews. That's the big question, Annie, coming in. Can any of these kids who we think in 2 years or 3 years could be impact players, what impact can they possibly have, if any, in 2024?
I think that your depth is in question if Jackson Merrill is in the majors in the first half. I think you're looking at things like that, and I do think it's like, hey, perhaps that is not ideal. It might be exciting for some, but I don't know that that's ideal, right? This article at Fangraphs, which was really well done, a little interesting because some people are on the list and some people are off. And I think, Craig, you were explaining that to me yesterday. It kind of depends on your ranking more so if than your readiness at the time, I suppose. So we'll get into that. But this list, very comprehensive. They did a good job. You can definitely check that out at Fangraphs, and they do a good job of breaking everything down. So you have guys like on there like Matsui and Go, who I'm not counting because, yes, they're rookies, but they're foreign pros. And so I think that they're kind of givens that they're going to contribute to the major league team. It's kind of a weird list because like Lesko is on the list, but not Snelling. I think Snelling is closer.
I know Snelling is closer.
I mean, he was the minor league pitcher of the year, finished at Double-A. He's closer, right? So I'm not exactly sure kind of the gist of some of that, but I think that's someone that you could potentially see.
Well, let's start with maybe the most consumable aspects from a radio standpoint of this piece.
Okay.
And you mentioned the name Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill is in his age 20, turning 21 season. He'll turn 21 during the year. And he's a legitimate hitter. He's being projected by, for example, Longenhagen on a 20 to 80 scale to grow into a 70 hit tool. That means a potential all-star level hitter. Somebody could be a 300 batter. Somebody could be a plus 300 batter. Someone who could challenge for a batting title. 70 to 80 grades on hitting are going to be where you could get that type of skill set. Raw power is showing as potential, his running ability as well. Not necessarily graded as an elite fielder at shortstop. But will Jackson Merrill ever play shortstop for the San Diego Padres? It seems to me the answer to that is most likely never, or maybe once in a while, but he's either going to be a second baseman in a year after Ha-Sung Kim leaves, or he's going to be a left fielder this year, and that's what scares me, is the idea of taking somebody who's been an infielder, had, I think, a few innings last year in left field, and just go sink or swim, get out there, push him up, go get him, kid.
For the first time in his career, right, Merrill got reps at non-shortstop positions in 2023, mostly left field, some first and some second base. I agree with you. I definitely don't think he's smelling shortstop at any point with the Padres, unless it's really far down the line, or they make some other trades or moves that, you know, we're not seeing right now. But so are you completely against trading Jackson Merrill? I mean, is that like terrible to say? Is everybody like yelling at their radio for that right now? I mean, if you're not going to play the guy at his given position, and I know his bat is good, but what he can get back for you, do you move him?
I feel like if you were going to move him, you would have done it last year.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the Padres were in a better position at the trade deadline last year, if they were where they were supposed to be, if that would have been the kind of move that A.J. Preller might have made as a, here we go, all in type situation. I mean, certainly G-Man Choi was not all in, or Rich Hill. I'm not against it in the sense that I'm not against any trade. Tell me what we're getting. You know, tell me what we're getting. Tell me how we're getting it. What years of control are we getting? What level of affordability are we getting? You know, yesterday we talked about Freddie Peralta from Milwaukee, who's got 3 years of optional control, one at $5.5 million and 2 years in a row at $8 million. Like, if you could trade Jackson Merrill for Freddie Peralta, I'm not saying they will. Milwaukee's probably contending. They're probably not making a deal. But like, in a world like that, where you got that type of pitcher for a player that we don't have a spot for right now or the future.
Right.
I mean, because where's Jake Cronenworth playing in 2025?
Yeah, well, that's the question. That's what I think you're right. That's what you have to be looking at right now is what can you get back? How can you better your roster? And I don't think you can close your mind to any of that. I just don't think that you can say any of these guys are off limits. Any of these guys we have to keep no matter what. Maybe Salas. I could see the argument for that right now, but
you can never trade Ethan Salas.
You can never, right? Okay, yeah, exactly. So I get that.
What you brought up Salas. He's in this article. He's at the top of it, and that's confusing because Ethan Salas should be nowhere near the San Diego Padres in 2024. Nowhere near.
That's what I'm saying. Like you do not want him coming up to the majors next year. You just do It's not enough time. It's just not enough time. I don't care how prodigious this kid is. And he is. He's very smart. He's very ahead of his time. He's precocious. He's all of that. But I still say you do not want him in the majors in 2024.
When you hear a catcher and scouts and people like this, evaluators, you know, national evaluators, put the name Buster Posey out there, they know what they're doing when they say that. Because I remember seeing Buster Posey at Lake Elsinore when he was in single A in the Giants system. And then people were like, this guy's going to be an absolute superstar in the major leagues. And you're like, really? Do you see it? They know. Ethan Salas is in that class. He's a switch hitter. He's 17. He's got the frame. And you cannot start his clock at age 18. Just imagine bringing up a kid who had a splash at Double-A last year and by all accounts was overmatched when he made it to Double-A. And what, he hits 340 in spring training, we bring him up, or he has a great start at San Antonio and people are desperate / excited, bring him up. No.
Yeah.
By the way, we've got a young catcher in Luis Camposano who's
By
good.
the way, Salas is 17.
He's 17.
You're not. You're just not. That is just not. I know you want to be unconventional, but you do not want to do that. Here's a name that is not on this list, so a little curveball here. Tirso Ornelas. I don't think I'm saying it right, but
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, left fielder, been around forever, still young, spent all of 2023, AA, AAA. Doesn't have the ceiling of true prospects, but probably is the most ready. You know, could get some time, could get a first half look just to see what they've got in him. Kind of a paid his dues option, you know, someone that they've wanted to keep and actually reached minor league free agency this offseason. They signed him back immediately. So I don't know, with all that outfield commotion, perhaps someone that they take a look at least in spring training, maybe heavily.
I would rather Tirso Ornelas have a big spring and be rewarded with a roster spot.
Earn that.
Than Jackson Merrill.
Yeah.
Being pushed into left field. Let's accelerate your development by bringing you to the big leagues too early and taking you completely out of your defensive spectrum from shortstop to left field and sink or swim. Tirso Ornelas is a left fielder. He's not a great left fielder. He's got a little bit of power, hit a career-high 15 homers. He actually is in this piece way down in the 35-plus future value prospects list because he's got a minimum carrying tool. He hits the ball hard. He hit 15 homers. Longenhagen describes him as a Billy McKinney-type hitter who could end up getting corner outfield reps due to the departure of Juan Soto. So, I've always had a soft spot for the Mexican national Tirso Ornelas and hope that he would make his way through, and he has not burst through a system that is known more than anything for over-promoting guys who are on the move and have some juice. So, it's a long road for Tirso, but if he's got a chance, it's this year.
And I think you're right. Like, you do it in spring. You see if he can compete and fight. And again, it goes back to, this is kind of where you're at. Is this where you're at? Or by spring training, in a few weeks into it, are we going to be looking back at these conversations going, we were so dumb. They are not anywhere near bringing these guys, up to the major leagues or looking at them or moving them. They're probably going to be moved, a lot of them. So this is all so contingent on what are these next few weeks and what are these next moves for a roster that has to be filled. Like, this is missing, they're not just going to leave those holes blank.
I'll give you one more name, and it's from the middle of this list, a 45 future value player, which is someone who's expected to come up and be something in the major leagues. And that's starting pitcher Adam Mazur.
Oh, yeah.
This is a club obviously in need of starting arms, and they're in need of starting arms that have the polish to be able to get to 100, 120, 140 innings in the big leagues or split between AAA/AA and the big leagues. And that brings me to Mazur, who has the college time from South Dakota State, later Iowa, pitched through his senior year, got drafted. He's all about control, command. He's got a polished set of multiple pitches, and probably, even though he's 4 or 5 starter type projection, guess what we need?
Yeah.
We need 4 or 5 starters on this team. We literally need 4 or 5 starters on this team, and Adam Mazur fits to that. I think he's somebody that the Padres won't be afraid to bring to the big leagues the second they feel he is effective enough to succeed.
Not a lot of walks, right? Shows you a lot of control, a lot of command. So that's definitely one to look for. And that's kind of, exactly. Like, you're looking at all these positions of need and guys that are maybe on the fence, like you're not sure exactly, are they ready, are they not ready? But in spring training could also get a lot of time to compete, time to show.
So lots of interesting players in the minor leagues for the Padres. But the bottom line is, when you're talking about who's going to be able to contribute this year, it's a very limited list, and it's a list fraught with risk because there's a lot of players right now that are kind of 3/4 baked. You know what I mean? They've been in the oven, but there's a little bit more time to go, and you don't want to bring that out where the middle of the cake is soggy. You want to wait till you're fully baked. There's the fear that someone is going to be half-baked brought up to the major leagues. I think a player like Mazer, given all of his time in college, has a lot better chance of coming up and being able to ride those rocky waters than a Snelling or even a Drew. Thorpe is closer than Iriarte, so to speak. But, guys who are less polished but have maybe better raw stuff.
What about Alec Jacob? Provided he's healthy, but he'd be out of the bullpen, right? So,
yes.
Submariner, right? Long reliever.
I think he's in the bullpen to start the season if he's healthy and available. And he's got a cool Adam Simber type. You know where you're going to use him. You're going to use him when Teoscar Hernandez is coming up. Get out that righty that has bad command of the strike zone. Perfect guy to pick. All right. When we come back, final segment of the 12 o'clock hour, let me see if I can interest you in a trade.
Okay. Let's say, hey, shout out to all the people who cover these minor leaguers. Do a great job. I know Matt Friars, Jeff Sanders, Kyle Glazer. There's just a lot of, I know I'm missing some, so I'm sorry, but they do a really great job of covering a lot of these minor leaguers.
I don't want it to be back to the point that that's all we have to. We don't. We got Manny. We got Tatis. We got X. We got players, man. We got Joe. We got Musgrove.
As you look at this roster and you think to yourself, are some of these guys going to be coming up this year? It was a while now on this Padres roster. We weren't really looking at the farm all that much, and that's where you guys did great work. Okay, because we're so focused on the big league club, like you were not pulling these guys up, and so now it's like it's a possibility. It could be happening here pretty soon.
Or we could just trade them.
Or they could be traded.
Let's think about that when we come back. Annie and Elsten at San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 1248 on Annie and Elsten. You know, Annie, I mentioned my Rick Schwartz memory earlier in the show. AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and the Jim Harbaugh Hail Mary. And then Schwartz in the back of the end zone comes traipsing out onto the field, like literally as they're making the call and the confetti's falling and all of that stuff. Kathleen in the chat on YouTube remembers this better than me and says, Craig, going back to your Rick Schwartz memory, he was wearing a full-length trench-style winter coat. Yes, I do remember that. And how we remember it, he also scooped up the ball under the coat. Yes, that's right, Kathleen. That's why he got let go. That is it. He took the game ball.
Who takes the game ball? Oh my gosh! Like, yeah. Ooh, did he get fired? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. You got to get fired for that.
Yeah.
Once you're
pretty much the end. Pretty much the end for old Rick Schwartz was that day.
Kathleen, good job though. That's a good memory, but. That's a career ender. Can you imagine in this day of social media, you would get killed. Oh my goodness.
Like
you would go viral. You'd have your 15 minutes and then it would be done for sure. But I do agree, like the arrogance of that. Hey, I'm going to grab the game ball. I'm just going to scoop it up,
while I'm here.
roll out with it, put it on my little shelf at home where I have all my memorabilia. Ooh, yeah, you got to have a lot of cockiness.
Michael Fry says, only highlight I could find, you see him come in at the very end and pat the player on the ground after he slumps down. That's right. That's what you saw on television. And then apparently he took the ball. Like, dude.
I kind of respect it for just the state of mind you have to be in, the chutzpah, of that. But at the same time, ooh, no, that's a no-no.
All right, every day until something happens. AJ, wake up! Right?
AJ, we need
like
you.
The 8 a.m. Ben and Woods intro. Is everybody in? Wake up! Yeah, please. Until then, we're going to, in a friendly and hopeful, in a benevolent gesture with the mutual goal of improvement, Kaizen, constant improvement, let's think of a trade. Let's just offer opportunities. Okay, there was a story earlier this week, Annie, and over the weekend that the Boston Red Sox are considering, as part of their desire to move some money around, because they're one of the teams that's considered in on Shota Imanaga, even on Blake maybe, that they might want to move some money out of their outfield in order to facilitate making some other trades. Red Sox have some young, controllable outfielders. They've got some guys still in the minor leagues that are coming up. And they've got a player that they signed to a big league contract out of Japan just a year ago, Masataka Yoshida. Pretty much batted cleanup, at least early in the year, for the Boston Red Sox, and had a great first half last season for Boston. He was really, really good in the first half. And in the second half, he was not very good for Boston. He struggled badly in the second half of the year. But he wound up, when all was said and done, a .289 average, .338 on base percentage, 15 homers.
15 homers.
Drove in 70, scored 70, 109 OPS plus, so he was about 10% better than the average American leaguer last year. 1.4 WAR. That's a productive, not a star, but it's a productive average player in Major League Baseball. Now, Yoshida is owed $18.6 million a year for the next 4 years, obviously out of the Padres' price range. Mm-hmm. But as was brought up in some of the trade discussion pieces I've seen around Yoshida, were he to post this year, he wouldn't get close to that contract based on what he did last year.
Yeah, that is a very team unfriendly contract right now because, he would not be getting that kind of money.
So, could you make a deal with the Red Sox that would bring Yoshida, who is 30, still right in the heart of his career? The cliff is usually 33, 34. Right. He's still in the heart of his career. And could the Padres be seeing a little bit something different in that they had a player in Ha-Sung Kim who came over first year, not that good, wore down at the end. But he figured it out. He got his legs under him. Second year better. Third year even better. Could there be growth inside Yoshida's potential career arc that the Red Sox fans might be like, 1 year, overpriced, forget about it? And the point I'm driving at is you make a deal where you don't give up the ultimate prospects. You don't give up your top 5, and you get the Red Sox to eat $8-10 million a year of the deal. Still is appealing to them because that it's sunk cost right now. So that money saved could be applied to something else to make their 2024 team better. What they're getting from the Padres is supposed to make them better along the way. Are you buying what I'm laying down?
I'm buying it a little. It depends on the cost. And I love the comparison with Kim because I really remember that year for Ha-Seong Kim. And at the end of it, everybody thought, not everybody, but there were a lot of people who thought, hey, this was an awful signing by the Padres. This guy was not ready, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And man, has Ha-Seong Kim worked his butt off. And I think that the Padres saw that in there at the time. Like, he's going to improve every year. We just need to put the right tools around him, give him the right resources. He needs to get comfortable. It is so uncomfortable for these players to acclimate to not just being in the United States, but then also acclimate to baseball at the major league level here. So I think that there's a lot to that. Like, what could year 2 bring? What could year 3 bring for a player who, especially as a hardworking player who wants to get better, and you give him the right resources, the right tools? I do think that, yes, I do think that Ha-Seong Kim is a better player than. Right?
No doubt. And younger, came to the
Masataka.
Big leagues at a younger age. I know it's not an apples to apples direct.
He doesn't have a great defense. Doesn't have a great glove, right? For Yoshida, right? So, but that could also improve. I think if your price was low enough, I don't hate it. Depending on what you gave up, too. Ooh.
Maybe you'll like tomorrow's trade proposal better.
I don't know.
If you don't like this one, wait till tomorrow. AJ, give us a player, all right? Hour number 4 of Andy and Elsten coming up on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Live in America's finest city, it's Annie and Elsten.
Oh, what time is it? Time to kick it!
A fresh local sports talk show about having a good time in the sunshine of San Diego.
Guess I've been working so hard, I forgot what it's like to be hardly working.
With your hosts, Annie Heilbrunn and Craig Elsten.
Ooh, doggy, we got a party now!
Featuring Braden Surprenant. The good times start now. Here are your hosts, Annie and Elsten, on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Back with you, 1 o'clock. Hope you are having an amazing Tuesday. Annie and Elsten here with you. Braden Surprenant alongside. One more hour, but that doesn't mean that the fun stops on 97.3. In fact, it keeps rolling, Annie. Gwen and Chris, 2 to 6. The Scraby Show, 6 to 7 with Matt Scraby. Matt Scraby goes 5 hours a day. He produces Gwen and Chris, and then he rolls out an hour of his own.
Respect the hustle.
Seriously.
Yeah. I mean,
That's tiring.
That's tiring. And then he's got to, still be planning for his show throughout the day. Because guess what? He's on solo, so he's got to carry that thing.
Damn.
Yeah. Great job, though. He's,
Way to go, Scrapes.
Yeah.
Good job, Stan. Like it. All right, so check that out. That's later today. We are live on YouTube. Find us on the 97.3 The Fan page on YouTube. Follow the page, subscribe to the page, like the shows. Appreciate all the engagement. You can follow us on social media as well. Twitter is a really annoying place to go, but you can do it. You can follow me at 619 Sports. You can follow Annie at Annie Heilbrunn. Just look, straight up, I am quick on the trigger finger, pardon me. And see, right now, someone would write, "This guy's so terrible he can't even say trigger finger." Like, if you just want to fill up my timeline with stuff, like, to try and get at me, I'm just going to block you. You're not going to get at me. I'm going to block you. And then you're going to keep doing whatever you do, and I won't see it. So it's all good.
We're in an interesting world right now.
It's different.
And it's different. And a lot of people just get to tell you exactly how they feel at any certain time. And it's new. It's I don't want to do the whole, I used to walk uphill in the snow, to
Well, you do live in the
school and
Alpine.
back.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I do
Alps.
that in Alpine.
I mean, that's
so-
what you do when you go get the newspaper, right? Is you walk uphill in the snow both directions.
Her
Right,
house is in the
exactly.
middle.
That's how I go. That's how I roll. But you just think back 10, 15 years ago, and of course we're not in those times right now. I get that. But you never really knew what people thought so much. And now guess what? You get to know what they think every second of every day. And it can be really cool. And it can also be a little, hey, I didn't really need to know that. Thanks. So
We're developing. It's
yeah.
all right. So, coming up to wrap up the show, in our final segment, in the final half hour, final 20 minutes of the show, we're going to do, once again, we're doing it every day until we know so much about one another that we no longer need to do it. And that's Ask Us Anything. And that's a chance for us to find out more about one another and for you to find out more about us. So if you'd love to leave us a question in the YouTube chat, you can do it. Braden is going to compile them, curate them. I mean, if you can do it, man, it's cool.
I'll look through it.
And, if you want to do it on Twitter as well, or X, which is Twitter, 619 Sports, at Annie Heilbrunn, you can drop us something there, a question. Ask us anything.
Get creative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not about sports.
Well, it could be about sports.
It
but
can be.
Yeah. Get
Like this. Joe's favorite tropical fruit.
See, a tropical fruit. I love pineapple. Thank you.
It's a great call.
Yeah.
It's a great call.
I'm into that.
The mango. I like myself a mango.
Mango's
Delicious.
good. Solid.
That's a very Filipino thing, is to have mangoes around,
Yeah.
either dried or fresh or both.
Dried mangoes, Costco. I think Costco still sells them. Oh man, you could plow through those. They do
That
the
Trader
whole-
Joe's bag
Oh,
of
yeah.
the fresh mango slices. Come on.
It's so good.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's random Olympic sport to watch. It's not bad.
Ooh, handball? Handball is good. Oh wait, we're this is the segment later. Guys, we appreciate this. Hang on to them.
Well, so
yeah.
here's my observation on this segment that we have done. We've teased it, and when we tease it, they throw in their questions. But then we always do some type of unintentional controversy topic that really gets the chat going, and it just buries all the questions. You're like, I swear they're asking us positive things about 5 minutes ago, and now they're both arguing with each other of whether or not you should watch the Chargers or what their taco shop is.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do then is I'm going to ask again at 1:30.
Yes.
And we'll see again these questions coming in. So a brief little tease of what's to come. Thank you so much. Random Olympic Sports, Tropical Fruits. Much appreciated.
I like the how specific it is. It's a very specific question.
That's your favorite fruit.
Right.
Your favorite tropical fruit.
Yeah.
Well,
I dig that.
Yeah. For me, it's an apple. It's an apple at the end of the night. That's usually my last thing I eat before I go to bed. Yeah.
Green or red?
Red.
Okay.
And one of the mild cheddar cheese sticks from Trader Joe's and a glass of Pinot. There you go. You've got my end of night routine. When do you ever watch that show that you're talking about and recommending? It's at 9:00, and I've got a glass of Pinot, and I've got a red apple, and I've got a stick of cheese. That's me.
One time I considered moving somewhere just based on the fact I could have walked to a Trader Joe's. I mean, is Trader Joe's just not like a gift to humanity? It's just, and it's always got terrible parking.
Yeah, with the exception of the parking lot. Yeah,
exactly.
I'd say so, I guess.
But if you can get in there and get out, I mean, it is just a wonderful place to be.
It's the snack capital of grocery stores. No one has better snacks than Trader Joe's. King of snacks.
They have deliciousness, and they have good. I like their stuff.
Great employees, good compensation plans, good benefit plans.
See, now everybody's going to be talking about the fruit and the employees at Trader Joe's, so we're going to lose all our questions.
You're right. This is how it works. We're still learning, Braden. We're still learning. 20 hours a week. We're figuring it out. We're putting it all together, and we thank you for joining us in the journey and along the way. So last segment, we talked about it briefly. Let's make a trade, right? Every day, we're just trying to give you ideas, AJ. We're like the writer's room for the Padres front office. Okay. We're just trying to punch up ideas, give us some tiny little thread, and we're going to try and twist it into something a little bit more beautiful.
Maybe they're blocked. Maybe the problem is they're a little creatively blocked. Like they just need a little help from us.
Just some suggestions, some ideas. It's grist for the mill, right? We're trying to make the mill, the mill work.
Sure,
we need grist.
They're very thankful for that. Yes.
So we talked about Masataka Yoshida, who has a bad contract. Mm-hmm. He has a contract that the Padres absolutely could not afford to bring on at this time. They would have to have the Red Sox eat 10,
Nor
12?
do I think you should take on, $18 million for him at this time. Right. Even if they had the money.
Yeah. No, I mean, straight up, no chance.
Correct.
Pay off a lot of the deal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give a decent prospect, someone that is worth it to the Red Sox, to the point that they value that prospect's surplus value to a dollar figure that matches the amount that Yoshida would cost them down the road. It's less crazy than you think, because teams literally will look at a player and their future surplus value and say, well, if they can give us $40 million of value on their on their rookie deal where they're getting paid $750,000, that's in a way money we're recouping into the system, at least in theory. So that's how you could make a deal for a guy like Yoshida. But we got an interesting name in the chat while we were in break from folks who didn't like the idea of trading for Yoshida, which I get. Like, he was plumb average last year. He was a slap hitter, basically, in Fenway.
Yeah, you're basically looking at a guy like Yoshida and saying, you're hoping that he improves. You're looking at that going, okay, I could see that if you get him at the right cost, and you're hoping that that was an acclimation year, that he's got more in him, that he can be more like that first half, and then improve from there. And then, you could sell it a little bit. You could say, okay, well, he could be a very good option in 2 or 3 years.
And he does hit for an average.
Yes. Not a big power hitter, but
could work.
Gap to gap.
If you're batting him 5th or 6th, if you're batting him down in that kind of Cronenworth zone in the Padres lineup, and you got Manny and Tatis and X on, what was the problem last year for the San Diego Padres? It was hitting with runners in scoring position. The single number one thing that kept the Padres out of the playoffs last year was that for 5 months, they were literally the worst clutch hitting team in baseball history.
And then they had a great September that made them not the worst hitting team since the Stone Ages in baseball. That's what they were for 5 months.
Yeah. There are awards that you get in your life. They're honors that you receive, and you put them up on your wall, and you put them on your resume and your website, and you're like, I'm so proud of this one. That is not one of them. They're not gonna take that historic moment and frame that and put that on the clubhouse.
Well, because they battled back to just be one of the worst hitting clutch teams in history,
Yes.
but not the worst. So that was great
Save
on
themselves.
their part.
Yeah.
So I do like the idea of having someone who, even if he did hit 15 homers, hits 290 and is in the middle of the lineup.
Right.
I mean, that's what I was praying Jake Cronenworth would do last year. And I thought, if Jake Cronenworth is batting fifth behind these four guys and he just hits 280, he's going to drive in 100 runs and he's going to score 100 runs. And the problem was he hit like 230 and for most of the year 210. So it didn't work out. So I don't mind the idea of bringing in a guy with an average. But speaking of another guy who hit for a 295 average last year, the name that our chat brought back to us for trade for a Red Sox outfielder is Jarren Duran. Mm-hmm. The cost for Jarren Duran would have to be significantly higher from the Padres' standpoint than someone like Yoshida. Because in Jarren Duran, you're talking about a player who has somewhat established himself now at age 27. Battled some injury, it appears, last year because he only had 11 games in the minors and 100 in the big leagues, so there's 50 unaccounted for right there. But in a half season, 332 at-bats, Duran hit 295, 346 on base percentage, very nice. 482 slug percentage, which is, I believe, higher than Yoshida. Last year, 121 OPS plus, very, very good. Stole 24 bases, 2.1 WAR. That's B WAR, by the way. And looks like he's coming into his own. That this could be a leadoff hitting star type player that you could put in any outfield position. Last year, he played mostly center, but played some left and right. So there's a guy who could fill in Grisham's role as center fielder for the team. The question is, what would the Boston Red Sox want to trade Jarren Duran for?
And he might love it. He's from Long Beach and also went to CSU Long Beach. So very familiar with Southern California, but I'm with you. I don't know that you're going to get this guy because I'm not sure that the Boston Red Sox would want to give him up. He looks like a promising player for them. He looks like a player that's been improving. He looks like a player that, like you said, has gotten a lot of familiarity in the big leagues at this point. And he's a good age right now, getting into, what is this, his fourth year. This is a very good place for him to be, where you can really make a jump and you can really start to, feel even more comfortable in the big leagues. I don't see them giving him up, and I think he'd be costing a lot more than a Yoshida would be at this point.
Is Sammy Zavala the player that the Padres are looking to move along the way? I think that's an interesting question. You're talking to, speaking of one of those players who wasn't listed on the imminent big leaguers list at Fangraphs, but has a lot of prospect hype, has some smoke, is coming up the zone. Is someone like that the player that the Padres need to trade? I just know this for sure. Either the Padres are going to make a trade in the next month and a half, or the Padres are going to sell us a completely different story about 2024, that it's not quite the year that they said it was going to be in the winter leading in, because they're just clearly not going to be diving into an insane baseball free agent market. They're praying that there's going to be a couple of dudes in that Profar class, the folks who slip through the grate, don't get signed, get close to spring training, people get desperate, prices go down. That's like the only market the Padres can shop in right now, if everything we've been told is true. If they're planning to not be a competitive balance tax 5-time or 4-time offender at the end of this year, then it's got to be a trade.
I agree. I still think, and I see a lot of people in the chat saying, let the kids play. And yes, absolutely let the kids play if they're ready. If they're ready to play, I say absolutely bring them up. It energizes the veterans. When you bring guys up from the minors that are ready to go, that are getting their first taste in the big leagues and can have some success, the veteran guys in the clubhouse usually love it. I mean, it's just like the spark, that gets everybody going, and it's fun to have. That's what you want, right? You want a mix of these veterans and these young players. But that's the key. Are they ready? Is this a good time for them to come up? Is there the confidence level that's going to be there? I think they still need to get one or two high profile players, one or two guys that are, more established, more developed to add to this roster. And then I think you can fill in on the fringes with guys who maybe don't have that experience, but are on the brink of being ready. And, you don't want to bring them up too fast. So I'm with you guys on that argument, but you could fill in on the fringes if you have some guys who are more mature, who are able to withstand everything that the majors are going to hold, and the ups and the downs that come with that. More downs than ups usually, right? Especially in your first year. So I think they've got to do it. And then the only way I see them really doing it is by trade. I just don't see the money being there to go out and get these big name players or these more established players, unless you kind of go get one. Maybe you're able to kind of secure one and then you do a trade for another and then you fill in at the fringes. And yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that necessarily. I don't see anything wrong with having that mix in there because, that is how you get some of these winning organizations. You are able to develop from within. We know that that's been a problem for the Padres. So you're able to bring these guys up, develop them, get them within the, working within the organization. Also, they're bringing up quite a few coaches from the minors who have familiarity with some of these guys and are going to be able to help them too at the big league level and know what they're all about. So I think that was also part of the strategy, part of the plan. I know that was really important to Mike Shildt to be able to bring up some of these coaches from the minors. Thinking, you got to kind of, put those pieces together that they're gonna be very familiar with whoever they do call up. So I think you can do it, but you've got to at least get one or two other guys that are a little bit more established. Or you got to try.
It's just too soon.
Yeah.
It's too soon for us to say that these players are going to be able to come up and immediately be part of a team that's trying to win.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, quite often with any prospect, the rookie of the year, right? The number 2 player, the randoms that come along, Rodriguez in Seattle, Chris Bryant when he first came out, like players like that burst into the big leagues, make an immediate impact, are a franchise cornerstone, and Fernando Tatis Jr., right? These players are few and far between. What the Dodgers have done effectively, and look, we don't have an $8 billion TV deal, so we can never think the same way, but they have regularly kept their pipeline flowing. They make a big trade when they have to, occasionally, see Scherzer and Turner example, but they bring their guys up when they're ready. Mm-hmm. So that when a Miller or a Pepio or a Stone come out of their minor league system to pitch, they're coming pretty much with their toolbox ready to go. The one thing that you would definitely say about A.J. Preller and his Padres tenure is that he is prone to aggressively promote. He is prone to bring someone up a level faster than most franchises would, and then from Double-A to the big leagues faster than some would believe is the right type of maturation path. So the concern is that you overdo that and you pre-cook somebody who wasn't quite ready to be there. Then they set back, they fall down, they lose favor in the organization, they wind up being a much better player elsewhere. That's the reason why I just say you can't just come into the year and go, well, put Jacob Marcy out there, put Graham Pauley out there, put Martorella out there, and we're going to be good to go. I just don't believe that's the case.
This is such a great opportunity, I think, for this organization to really set even more of a strategy in terms of promoting from within and building from within and creating that kind of pool that, look, you can hate the Dodgers, I get it, but they are very good at developing their minor leaguers. They are very good at bringing them up through the system and those guys being ready to play when they come up and also understanding, what is expected of them. The Cardinals, guess what? The St. Louis Cardinals were also very good about developing an organizational culture and a minor league system that promoted from within, and that when guys came up, for the most part, like they knew what what is the cardinal way? How do we play? How do we go about business? Well, Mike Shildt, he has a very good opportunity right now, and not to mention that he is a winning manager in the minors. I mean, he's done a lot of his success has been at the major league level, but also very much so in the minor league level. The minors are very important to him. So I do wonder, I'm interested, I'm kind of fascinated, because as a manager, you don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of time to devote to the minor leagues, but if he's able to put his hand on it, put his stamp on it, kind of help things flow where you feel like you've got like a good channel that's going, good channel of communication and things like that, like you might be able to use these next few years to really turn some of that system around and get a good process. I think they need, kind of that, like a little bit more attention of how the minors, that evolve into the majors and everything like that. So this could be a good opportunity for this organization and for Mike Shildt to put his stamp on it a little bit as well with everything that he's learned.
I want to be really clear. I think the path for the Padres in the 2020s is to break the cycle.
Yeah.
Right?
Want that.
And if you're new to the show or you haven't heard previous conversations about this is a question I keep bringing up. I'm going to bring it up all year. Mm-hmm. Can you break the cycle without breaking the window? What does that mean? The cycle is A.J. Preller trading his best prospects for controllable players who have established major league service and ability, a la Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove. This is how the three pillars of the rotation the last 2 years were acquired. It was by shipping out 12 prospects to various places in Major League Baseball. Those trades worked, just period. Even if Owen Cassie comes up and is a star, even though Bednar succeeded in Pittsburgh, and even though, look at even the Soto trade, even though C.J. Abrams, is looking like a good player, these trades worked for San Diego. They got the players they needed at the time they needed them, but now they have a team that's too expensive and too weighed down by long-term commitment to be able to just keep doing that. Yeah. You have to break the cycle, because otherwise you're going to have every single guy on your team making a few $1 million as established big leaguers, and we're overpriced.
Yeah, you're somewhat being forced into by your own hand, breaking the cycle. Exactly. Like I think, we talked about it a little bit last week too, but this is a lot of this is deals that were done in the last few years don't allow for certain things to be done now. And I'm not saying that they're good, they're bad, they're whatever, but that's just the reality of it. Especially under what is probably the new payroll and the new TV deal or no deal or anything like that. Like there's just going to be certain restrictions that come with the territory, at least for now. And maybe that changes over the next few years. And maybe the once you reset that CBT, once you're able to kind of get your feet under you of maybe where, you went high in this market, there's probably some middle ground that is where you're not acting like a small market club, but maybe you're not able to act either like the Dodgers or the Yankees. There's some middle ground there that they're probably going to try to really establish over the next few years, but there's no doubt about it. In my opinion, that includes a very good funnel from the minor leagues into the major leagues and ability to depend on those players, these guys that you've scouted, drafted, that you've put a lot of work into contributing at the major league level. And it allows these guys too to, we talk about the proverbial culture so much. Well, you can't, some of that has to be organic and some of that is very strategic, right? But you can't just bring new guys in every year and expect culture. You just can't. It's not, your manager is not going to be able to do that every year, and nor should he. He's just not. So you've got to be able to have that group, that core group in there. And a lot of times that works better when you've come up through the system versus when you're bringing guys in who are, yes, great players, but they don't know internally what the minor leagues are like for the Padres. They came from this organization or that organization, and sure, they can lend their advice and their tips. So I think, you really do have an opportunity here to create that. How are we going to be that? Maybe those guys aren't going to be your veterans right away, but you're not looking right away. Like you need to look 5 years, 10 years down the road as well, and how you can shape these next classes that come through the system. Annie, I just couldn't agree with you more. I think that was outstanding. This is how you build culture. You can't microwave your culture. Right. And that's, honestly, that's what the Padres did for 2 years in a row, is they went microwave culture. They were like, here's a new guy, here's a new guy, here's someone else's best player, here's someone else's best player. Let's put them all in a room. Boom, we've got culture. No, you don't.
You got nothing. And if there was anything we learned about 2023's club, it's that it lacked that culture and continuity. But how do you break the cycle without breaking the window? Because 2024 is supposed to be AJ's last stand.
I mean, yeah, I look, none of us know the real, true, what ultimatums that are on the table or what people are thinking, at the very highest level within the Padres organization. But you would have to think that Mike Shildt and AJ Preller are pretty closely tied at this point in terms of contracts and in terms of success. You need that to work. Like I said, both parties need that one to work, and not just Mike Shildt, but the actual, direction of the club,
So that's where it just gets so tricky.
Yeah.
How you can see this club in 2025 being like really well positioned and having Marcy have had another full year, and Pauly and Snelling and Iriarte and Thorpe, and all of a sudden all these guys are knocking on the door at the same time. And then you're like, we've now got a luxury of options. We might have 7 great starters in our system. But here's the thing about starting pitching prospects. There's a famous saying coined by Baseball Prospectus: there is no such thing as a pitching prospect, Tim Stapp. It's true. I will hearken you back to a time when Ben Higgins and I were doing pregame, postgame on Kogo, covering the Padres every day, doing our Hot Stove League show out at Cush Honda. It used to be Cush Honda, now Mission Valley Honda. And I remember having this packet of minor league stats and the Padres prospects coming through the system and going like, holy cow, the depth of talent coming through the Padres system. And at that time, the number 1 pitching prospect was Dennis Tankersley. It's like, Dennis Tankersley is on the come. This guy is going to make it. There was Ben Howard. He was in that group. And then there was this other kid named Jake Peavy that was in that group. There were 5 different guys that were listed as like, this is this crop. They're coming up. They're coming up together. Peavy became a unanimous Cy Young Award winner. Tankersley gave up the longest Grand Slam in the history of Qualcomm Stadium that Barry Bonds hit off the Jumbotron screen. You remember that?
Yes.
And none of the other guys panned out at all. Be there for 2 games, a handful of games, this and that, pop their heads up in the big leagues for a couple years, and they're out of there. And that's how it works. So when we look now at Snelling, Thorpe, Iriarte, Mazer, Lesko, if one of those guys winds up being a great pitcher for the Padres, honestly, the system did its job. And that means 4 guys wound up being nothing.
It's a great point. I mean, and they're not all going to hit. They are not all going to hit. And if you get 1 or 2 of them to hit, and by hit, I mean, I don't just mean like hit at the plate. I mean, are successful. It's such a hard job. I mean, I know Jesse Agler has looked up before, and I don't have the number on hand, but how many Major League Baseball players there are, to this point, it is such a low number, because it's just so hard to make it at this level. It's so hard to be able to become successful and stay at this level. And whenever we see a guy make his debut, it always astounds me, how low that number is of guys that get there. So for, your 12 or 15 minor leaguers that you think are going to get a shot, probably 1 or 2 are names that you'll see pretty consistently, and maybe a few that are up and down for a while or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's really going to be an interesting year. That's why I think 2023 was a fascinating year to watch, because of the disappointment and the expectations and all of that. And 2024 is going to be a fascinating year to watch because of the expectations and the strategy. And are you competitive, or are you, can you allow yourself to take a year where you're, where you're out of the window? Can you allow that? But then again, do you go, you don't want to be too desperate, throw all your chips in when you're not supposed to. And now you've lost a year. Now you've lost 2025 too. Now you've lost, it's such a difficult, it's very on the fringe. You really have to play it right. It's delicate.
Yeah. You don't want to be the Angels.
Right.
You don't want to be a team with a bad farm system, nothing coming up, 3 overpaid aging superstars, and no shot at the playoffs. That's what the Angels have been forever. right? From Pujols to Hamilton to Rendon and down the line. There's a way to do that, and it's to trade everyone right now. Like, just drain the system right now. Go super all for it in the next 2 years. Also, there's a qualitative, logical argument to be made that the single best chance for the Padres to win the World Series with Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts and Jake Cronenworth and Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish is in the next 2 years before the aging curve starts to impact some of these players' potential success in the big leagues. So that's why this is just so darn fascinating.
It is. It really is.
There's no obvious path right now for the San Diego Padres.
No. And there's a lot of maybe paths that they could take. And I don't know that, we're certainly, we'll tell you if we think they're right or wrong, but we're probably not qualified to, right? I mean, there's so many intangibles or things that they only know, things that they are probably sitting in rooms, hashing out, putting on a whiteboard, going back and forth, trying to make you're trying to make the best guess is really what you're doing. And then here's the other thing. They're not robots. You can't look at them and be like, well, since he did this, he's going to do this the next, year or 2 years. Like, they're human beings. They're going to have up years, down years, bad days, personal problems. Like, you're hoping that they're professional and that they're able to work through a lot of things, but you're betting on humans, It's not, think about how many people bet on you in your own life. Like, it's now, yes, they're getting paid a lot to do this, so I get that. But it's hard. Side note real quick, there's a huge cutout of Ben Higgins right next to you over there. You mentioned Ben in this last 5 minutes, and I'm just curious if every comment you make, Ben is like watching over you, thinking, Craig, that's silly. That's silly.
I mean,
that's dumb. No,
if people
like, is he approving or not approving?
I just think I'm going to have a lot better time with all the folks in the chat if we just say that everything I say is Ben.
Yeah, everything is Ben Higgins. Everything is Higgy.
Beloved, respected Ben Higgins.
Does a great job. A wonderful
outstanding
job.
person.
Yes.
We got to take a break. You can ask us anything when we get back as we look to wrap this thing up and send it out to Jupiter. Annie and Elsten working our way toward Gwen and Chris at 2 o'clock right here on San Diego's #1 sports station. It's 97.3 The Fan.
Odyssey app today. AUDACY.
All right, 137. This is going to be a quick segment because your rookie host screwed up and didn't put a break in last half hour.
No, we were just so into that
We
conversation.
really were. We literally were just
getting
like
a lot of
looking
great
at each
comments.
other,
Yeah.
talking through it, just chopping it up, talking ball.
Sometimes that happens. You just can't ruin the flow.
Put a chew in and talk some
Flow
ball,
happened.
you know? So, but you mentioned the big Ben Higgins cutout here, and,
Yeah.
and it just reminded me of something in just a second. So, Christmas holidays, back at my dad's house, and not for nothing, not trying to spring, but a year ago, my mom passed away, right?
Oh,
It's
I'm
September
sorry.
2022, September, October.
So hard.
And, we had the funeral, we had the what's the word? When we all get together at the wake, right? Memorial.
Yes.
And at the memorial, Dad had made these really beautiful, big portraits of my mom, like big, like the size of the window.
Awesome.
Over here.
Mhm.
Big. Beautiful. Wonderful. And then when it was done, he had like 3 or 4 of these portraits. And he's like, well, if you guys want to take one, and like where her urn is of her ashes, there's one of those one of those portraits above. It's beautiful. So my son asked that he was feeling a way. He was like, hey, Dad, can you come sleep in my room, which was my childhood bedroom. Christmas Eve. He has a hard time sleeping, right? Gets excited, new house, etc. And I wasn't sure why, because it was the last time we went there, he felt the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I don't know why, but sure, I'll come sleep in the bed. And I walk in, and facing the bed is one of Mom's giant portraits, like just like there. Like just,
You're gonna see that no
just-
matter what.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's a lot, like God bless her and I love her, but that's a lot. Like I can just imagine waking up in the middle of the night.
And like, there she is. Yeah, and especially in your childhood bedroom, you're
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Larger than life. So I literally took the portrait and I moved it over
Just
here.
a little, just
I
a little.
Just
yeah.
put it to the side,
Right.
facing the door, not facing
Maybe
me.
a little side eye, not so much the front stare, right?
Maybe a little side eye, but Mom, come on! I don't need the entire view. That's just
It's too much.
It's a little. It's a little much.
Too intrusive. I'd like to, you want to see her maybe in the hallway or something,
Right.
a place that you're kind of going in and out. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, hey, Mom, but not so much when you're waking up and going to sleep. So largely, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yes.
larger than life. All right, ask us anything after this. Annie and Elsten on the Fan. Ready? Coming up Wednesday on Annie and Elsten, San Diego State trying to stay perfect in Mountain West play. We'll break down their game at San Jose State. And AJ, let's go. Trade? Damn it. All right. 3, 2, 1. Coming up Wednesday on Annie and Elsten, we'll break down San Diego State's road game at San Jose State. And AJ, let's go, man. A trade? primetime NFL games are available free from Westwood One and live here on 97.3 The Fan and on the Odyssey app. Saturday, a wild card playoff doubleheader starting at 1 and a tripleheader Sunday morning starting at 9:30. All right here on 97.3 The Fan, or simply download the Odyssey app and search for 97.3 The Fan at kickoff. Got you covered.
Got you covered.
Almost like your mic button.
Yes, covered by your finger when you press it.
I just kicked off my
turn
mic.
it on.
Yeah. I kicked it off.
Thanks
Down
to
the
everybody
field.
hanging with us in the chat on YouTube today. Very much enjoyed it. They got to hear us record a promo during the break. So you get some behind the scenes stuff there.
I think the YouTube is like where your crapshoot is. Like you don't know what you're going to get on here because the hot mics,
we don't
the
know.
video, we don't even know. Right. So if you're watching or listening on YouTube, you are getting more of the unfiltered Annie and Craig. And so I think it's a good call. And, you get all Braden's kind of ups and downs because he has so many jobs now. You get to experience all of it.
That's right. A lot of jobs, a lot of things.
YouTube gets the chaos.
Today, Tuesday, right? So tomorrow morning, I'll be up early, already coaching football in January. That sport it's just never ends. High school sports in general now, they're all year round.
Yeah.
That blew me away when you told me yesterday that, we got to get going.
Yeah, you got it.
It's January. It's time to get rolling. The season's in September, so it's January. Let's go.
The season gets pushed up more and more every year because they want to get more and more state playoffs in, and they got to get it done before Christmas.
Right.
It's one thing to make college athletes have to do it around the holidays, but to make high school athletes play a state championship the week of Christmas would be ridiculous. So we start we used to start second week of August, first week of August for practice. Now we're scrimmaging the first week of August, and we're starting football in July for actually full pads practices and stuff. And that's like every sport. They just never stop.
All right, it's time for Ask Us Anything. We've just got a few minutes left in the show, and we got a great question on the YouTube chat from Michael Fry. He said, ask us anything. What was the worst job you have ever had?
Who wants to start?
Do you want me to go first? Okay, so when I was, this has probably been late teens, early 20s, maybe 18, 19, 20, something like that. So, a few years ago. I worked over the summer at the San Diego Zoo. And I was one of those costumed dancers, with the big head.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I'm trying to remember what it was. It was, I believe that our skit at the time was Scooby-Doo. And I can't remember which character I was. I'll have to try and find the pictures. And it wasn't a bad job. You're performing, you're putting on the big, but you're in that humongous head.
Yeah.
And the head, I would break out. So you're so sweaty in that head that my face would break out. And that's the only reason I'm saying it's the worst job, because it was just very hot. But I was one of those people that was in the whole I wasn't the girl. I can't remember their
Velma?
character. I wasn't Velma.
You weren't Daphne?
I was
You weren't Fred?
I think I was one of the. I was one
Are
of
you
those
Scrappy
very
Doo?
random. I think I was a dude. I'm pretty sure I was a dude, and we'd have to go you'd have to get from you'd get carted on the golf cart, and then they'd kind of put you down near the stage, and you'd have to traipse along in your big old uniform costume thing, and then get on the stage and do the
and you have to be super exaggerated in all your motions, right?
A mascot, yes, guys, thank you. Yes, super exaggerated. It was a lot of fun though, because it is that whole culture where you're inside of the uniform or the costume, the mascot, whatever, and there's a whole subculture to that, because you're not who everyone thinks you are, and there's a whole it's what you see in the movies a lot of the time, so it was a lot of, it was fun, but I did not appreciate the I guess germy masks, I guess now.
Yeah, it's got to be disgusting in there. You're giving me Succession episode 1, cousin Greg overheated, puking through the eye holes of the mascot.
And that was pre-COVID, so I'm sure there was no actual cleaning of. Probably very little cleaning that happened in all of those things. Okay, what's yours?
Mine is easy. It was the first job I ever had. It's still the worst job I ever had, and that was working at Soup Plantation.
Oh.
Now, look,
I've heard people that loved working there, so this is interesting to me.
I loved eating at Soup Plantation, and I did all the different jobs at Soup Plantation, but especially when I was there in the 90s, a little bit, it's pretty much the same, but there were two jobs that were complete hellscapes.
Okay.
Number one is being the soup guy. Okay? You've got 6 scalding hot soup cauldrons. You have to continuously keep them at a level, right? So it's always got to be, you can't have more than like a couple inches drop in the soup can because no one wants to get the bottom of the barrel soup if you're just in the buffet line. Everything's got to be topped. Everything's got to be the right temperature. So up front, it's all clean, right? It's pristine tile, and you're constantly wiping because everyone comes through and just spills the clam chowder all over the chicken noodle, or just dumps some chili inside the clam chowder and just throws soup crackers everywhere. It's a complete mess. And you got to be cleaning. And then simultaneously in the back, you have these 6 giant soup tureens that's got the soup that's coming out. And so you're going in there and pouring and spilling and then coming back and pouring, and you just burned yourself over. And like I would come home and my arms would just be scarred with all of these small soup burns. Not enough to blister you, but enough to give you like red marks. It was the same thing, but slightly better as the Muffin Man over in the Muffin Bar, because same idea, hot trays, constant movement, blueberry muffins, they're out and they're gone. They're out and they're gone. Like the wheat muffin stays there all day, but the blueberry muffin, it's out and it's gone. It's out. So always constant motion, constant movement, constant heat. It sucked.
Pour one out for Soup Plantation, because a lot of us remember Soup Plantation.
That's right.
And it was a wonder to us all. We all got to enjoy so many meals there. I feel like you would see the worst of humanity in those kinds of jobs, Craig. Like you would see people that just have probably zero self-awareness, maybe respect for anybody, their fellow person.
That's like when I worked at Starbucks. But that wasn't my worst job, though.
What was your worst job?
Worst job when I was in college, I was working. My favorite job I've ever had was doing the video for TCU football. But to kind of supplement that and have my own kind of side cash, I worked what was called Froggy 5.0, which you would provide a safe ride system. This was before like Uber was very popular. So on campus we had golf carts to give people safe rides, up until like 10:30 at night.
Sure.
If you're studying late at the library, whatever. And that job was it was run very poorly. But I'd drive around a golf cart and it would be sundown to 10 o'clock at night, and I had to do it in the wintertime, and I was so cold in Texas that time. That was probably my worst job.
Oh, yeah. And you had to just be like the personable guy.
That's
carrying
right.
people around.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of drunk people.
That's a good question, guys.
If you liked the show, thanks so much. If you didn't, we'll do better tomorrow. For Annie Heilbrunn and Braden Soprenet, I'm Craig Elsten. Gwen and Chris are next on San Diego's #1 station, 97.3 The Fan.
Peace.